so many in the media still questioning whether or not he will? Our panel weighs in on that next.
No, I'm not. No.
Steinmart is the one-stop spot for all your last-minute gifts. Gift the brands you know at prices you'll love while saving up to 60% off department store prices. With accessories, coats, sweaters, tech, and more, there's something for everyone. Open Christmas Eve. Hurry in to Steinmart today.
If you've been turned down for a mortgage because of credit or tax return issues, Cash Call Mortgage now has credit and income-solving mortgages with no closing costs. Just call 855-890-CASH and we'll work with you to find a solution to your mortgage issues.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA. Every MyPillow is made with passion here in my home state of Minnesota to ensure you get the best sleep of your life.
One of the things that I really like about MyPillow is the support. It gives my neck a little hug.
I've never slept better in my life. What's better than a great night's sleep?
Sleep is one of the most important things to your health, and MyPillow is one of the most important things to your sleep.
Call or go online to order MyPillow Premium, and Mike will give you a second pillow absolutely free. Use the promo code on your screen to get 2 MyPillows for the price of 1. Don't delay. Order now.
I tried every pillow from expensive down pillows that just went flat to fiber-filled pillows that rebound every time you move your head. I even tried those memory foam pillows, and the curve did not match my neck, and it probably won't match yours. That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
MyPillow lasts 10 years, is machine washable and dryable, and comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee.
I personally guarantee MyPillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own or your money back.
Call or go online to order MyPillow Premium, and Mike will give you a second pillow absolutely free. Use the promo code on your screen to get 2 MyPillows for the price of 1. Don't delay. Order now.
With our 60-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose. Sleep well, America!
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Hi, I'm Joan London. Today's senior living communities have never been better, with amazing amenities like movie theaters, exercise rooms and swimming pools, public cafes, bars and bistros, even pet care services. And there's never been an easier way to get great advice. A Place for Mom is a free service that pairs you with a local advisor to help you sort through your options and find the perfect place. A Place for Mom. You know your family, we know senior living. Together we'll make the right choice.
We're going to go back to the White House shortly for a playback of tape from the Oval Office where the president apparently, we believe, has just signed the tax bill before he heads off to Mar-a-Lago for a beautiful holiday weekend to celebrate Christmas.
Yeah, and we understand that he did take some questions, so we will be getting to hear a little bit from President Trump. Probably a lot of excitement from him as this major legislative accomplishment has been achieved prior to the holidays and prior to being able to go and enjoy the holidays at Mar-a-Lago.
The Republicans certainly celebrating this as a victory. Democrats not so much.
Right, and one of the things we've been talking about is how much is this going to play? Because as soon as legislators leave for home, they're going to be thinking about the midterm elections.
Sure.
It's in a blink of the eye. It's going to be January, and everyone's going to be talking about that. So, of course, Republicans, President Trump.
And here he is.
Right here. Let's take a listen to what he has to say.
You're all right.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for being here, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, have great holidays. We are going to sign some very important things. One is a continuing resolution that very importantly, gives us the right, and we are ordering $4 billion worth of missile defense equipment and missiles themselves. Very important, top of the line, best in the world. We make the best military product in the world. Nobody is even close. So we're ordering $4 billion worth of missile defense, and that will be done by signing right here and also by notifying the Speaker of the House and President of the Senate, designating the missile defense as an emergency defense fund. So it's $4 billion for that and $700 million for various other military forms of equipment. And I'm very honored to be doing that. Our military has been doing a fantastic job in so many ways with ISIS, and everything they're touching lately has been working out. So we're signing that. This is the letter to Mitch McConnell and separately to Paul Ryan, authorizing that having to do with missile defense. Okay. Very important. So that's being done today, and that's going to be sent out. And then when I watched the news, as you know, we had the largest tax cuts in our history just approved. And I was going to wait for a formal signing sometime in early January, but then I watched the news this morning, and they were all saying, will he keep his promise? Will he sign it by Christmas? You were one. But will he sign it by Christmas? And I called downstairs. I said, get it ready. We have to sign it now. We were going to wait till January 7th or 8th and do a big formal ceremony. But every one of the networks was saying, will he keep his promise? Will he sign it for Christmas, before Christmas? And so I immediately called. I said, let's get it ready. As you know, $3.2 trillion in tax cuts for American families, including the doubling of the standard deduction and the doubling of the child tax credit. The typical family of four earning $75,000, we see an income tax cut of more than $2,000. Many much higher than that, slashing their tax bill in half. And they're going to start to see that because we're signing today. They're going to start to see that in February. The numbers will speak. One of the big things that happened, you have some great companies. I want to thank AT&T, who actually was the first out of the box, and Boeing and Sinclair and Wells Fargo and Comcast, even though they own NBC, which is not so nice to the presidency or the president. But Comcast also, they all have made tremendous contributions to their employees and tremendous contributions to spending money in this country because of the tax bill. And they all said that it's because of the tax bill. So they're making tremendous investments. That means jobs. It means a lot of things. And we're very happy. So that's AT&T, Boeing, Sinclair, Wells Fargo, Comcast, and now many other companies, as you see. In fact, just this morning, I see 3 more companies came on. A friend of mine, Bob Kraft, called me last night. He said this tax bill is incredible. He owns the New England Patriots, but he's in the paper business too. And he said, based on this tax bill, he just wanted to let me know that he's going to buy a big plant in the great state of North Carolina, and he's going to build a tremendous paper mill there, or paper products plant. And I've had many calls such as that, where people that are entrepreneurs, people in business, they're going out and they're going to buy, frankly, factories that are closed, abandoned, and now they're not going to be abandoned any longer. This is having an even bigger impact, faster than I thought. The corporate tax rate, as you know, will be lowered from 35 to 21%. That means that more products will be made in the USA. A lot of things are going to be happening in the USA. We're going to bring back our companies that they've already started coming back. I think they had certain confidence in me. They figured we were going to get this done, but they have already started. something very important to me, the family farmers and small business owners who lost their business because of the estate tax. Most of them won't have any estate tax to pay. It will be a great thing for their families. You can leave your farm to your family. You can leave your business, your small business, to your family, not even so small, because the numbers are pretty big here. So they'll be exempt from having to pay estate tax, which will be tremendous. They'll keep their farms and their businesses in the family. Businesses will be able to deduct 100% of the cost of their capital investments in the year the investment is made. That's called expensing. And to do 1 year expensing, I think, is going to be one of the biggest things in the bill, frankly. I think people are going to go out and absolutely go wild over expensing. Bob Kraft mentioned that last night in his telephone call. The fact that they can expense, do 1 year expensing, is a fantastic asset. Historic small business tax cuts and pass-throughs now are made really, really good for the business owner. They're hiring people. I see it on television. I'm reading about it all over, where people are hiring a lot of people right now to go to work. The small business tax cut and the pass-throughs are now really incentivizing people. We're going to bring back probably $4 trillion from overseas. Nobody knows the exact number, but it's massive. It'll be over $3 trillion. It could be $5 trillion, but it's a tremendous amount of money that was caught overseas, that the bureaucracy plus the tax laws didn't allow it to reasonably be brought back into our country. So we think at least $4 trillion is going to be brought back. And if you look at that, it's going to be brought back right under the code. This is something that Republicans wanted for years and Democrats wanted for years, and yet it never got done. Who would object to trillions of dollars being brought back into our country? Nobody. But it never got done. Now it's being done. And the bottom line is, this is the biggest tax cuts and reform in the history of our country. This is bigger than actually President Reagan's many years ago. I'm very honored by it. In addition, we have ANWR. We're opening up ANWR for drilling. They've tried to get that for 40 years. They've tried to get that even during, because you're basically saying pay for something in order not to have to get it. Everything in here is really tremendous things for businesses, for people, for the middle class, for workers. And I consider this very much a bill for the middle class and a bill for jobs. And jobs are produced through companies and corporations. And you see that happening. Corporations are literally going wild over this. I think even beyond my expectations, so far beyond my expectations. So I'll sign this today rather than having a very big formal ceremony in 2 weeks when we were going to do it, because I didn't want you folks to say that I wasn't keeping my promise. I am keeping my promise. I am signing it before Christmas. I said that the bill would be on my desk before Christmas, and you are holding me literally to that. So we did a rush job today. It's not fancy, but it's the Oval Office. It's the great Oval Office. And just to conclude, our country is doing very well. We've tremendously cut regulations. Legislative approvals, for which I'm given no credit in the mainstream media. We have, I believe it's 88, which is #1 in the history of our country. Second now is Harry Truman. Harry Truman had more legislative approvals than any other president, and a record long held. And we beat him on legislative approvals, for which I get no credit. A lot of people say he needed this because he has had no legislative approvals. Well, if you look at VA Accountability Act and so many other bills having to do with the VA, having to do with the military, having to do with many things, we have more legislative victories than any other. And I want to thank some people in particular that aren't here, because, again, we expected a formal ceremony in 2 weeks. But Mitch McConnell has been fantastic. Worked so hard. We would speak at 3 in the morning and 2 in the morning, and we would speak whenever we had to speak. But He worked so hard, and the exact same thing can be said for Paul Ryan. They are very proud of this, and we're already seeing the results. And as I said, long ahead of schedule. Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, thank you very much. Orrin Hatch, the chairman, made a beautiful speech the other day in front of the White House. An absolutely brilliant, beautiful speech, and we appreciated it, and I appreciated it. Hardworking. Kevin Brady, I don't think he slept for months. It's almost like that's all he did was this. Mike Enzi, Senator Enzi. Diane Black. Rob Portman, the group of Rob Portman. Rob worked so hard, so knowledgeable on the subject. Pat Toomey, likewise. Tim Scott, likewise. John Thune, likewise. These people work so hard, and I don't know if they're given the proper credit. And the whole Senate, when I say the Senate, unfortunately, the Republicans in the Senate. Democrats don't like taxes. They want to raise your taxes. They don't want to lower your taxes. They want to raise your taxes, and they want to spend money foolishly on things that we don't need in many cases. So we're cutting taxes, we're taking care of our military, and we're taking care of people. Really doing a job on jobs. So these folks have been so fantastic that I had to call them in. And plenty of others, believe me, Republicans in the House and Republicans in the Senate have been incredible. So this is what we got. We had it. It was all set to go. As soon as I got back from Christmas, where we'll be working in Florida, I'll be working very hard during that Christmas because we have many things we're talking about, including North Korea, including and same thing in Iraq, and we're making tremendous strides. It's sort of the unwritten story right now, but since my speech on Afghanistan, we're making tremendous progress, tremendous strides. We've opened it up, and it's a whole different world in Afghanistan, I can tell you that. So I'll be working very hard over the holidays. Again, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas. I have some beautiful pens over here, and because all of these folks are either continuing to work down the road or getting ready to leave, and I'm sure they'll be working very hard also. I think I'm probably going to hand some of them to the press. Does the media, would media like any of them? Oh, look at these camera guys. But I think we'll do that. So we have them. Many of you have worked very hard. Many of you have worked very, very fairly, and we really appreciate that. So here you go, folks. You want the box with it or not, huh?
Mr. President, can you talk a little bit about how much you'll travel to sell this tax?
I don't think I'm going to have to travel too much to sell it. I think it's selling itself. It's becoming very popular. But I think you'll see something on February 1st when they open up the paycheck. That's when you're going to start to see it, because by signing it now, it kicks in for this year. Remember, if we didn't make a certain date, it wouldn't kick in until next year, meaning the following year, 19, and I wasn't happy with that. So we worked very, very hard to make sure it was this year. Even language originally said the corporate would kick in 19, but we didn't do that. We have it kicking in now, but we had to sign. So I don't think we're going to have to do much selling. I think the corporations that are giving billions and billions of dollars away to their workers, and many more are coming, I think that's really what's selling this, maybe better than anybody could, including myself. But I think come February, when they open their checks and they see, wow, what happened? I have a lot more money in here. I think that's really going to be something very special. So have a great holiday, folks. Some of you folks take, I in particular like the boom holders. They were so nice to me the other day, right? And the cameramen.
Mr. President,
and the cameramen.
Mr. President, as you mentioned, no Democrats have supported this tax cut legislation.
Thanks, everyone.
Will they regret it?
I think the Democrats will really regret. The Democrats already regret it. You know, they have their typical thing, it's for the rich. They know that's not true. And they've been called out on it by the media, actually. But the Democrats very much regret it. They wanted to be a part of it, just doesn't work out. But I really do believe, and I said on social media today, I really do believe we're going to have a lot of bipartisan work done. And maybe we start with infrastructure. because I really believe infrastructure can be bipartisan. We've spent $7 trillion in the Middle East, not to mention all of the lives and all of the heartache, and it's so sad. $7 trillion. It's time for us to rebuild our country. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
You should have started with infrastructure at the beginning of this year.
Well, we're going to get infrastructure. Infrastructure is the easiest of all. We're very well on our way. We've essentially repealed Obamacare. The individual mandate is a very big factor in this bill, frankly. A lot of people don't talk about it because the tax cut is so important. But infrastructure is by far the easiest. People want it, Republicans and Democrats. We're going to have tremendous Democrat support on infrastructure, as you know. I could have started with infrastructure. I actually wanted to save the easy one for the one down the road. So we'll be having that done pretty quickly. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. President Trump in the Oval Office just moments ago, just a little while ago, signing tax reform into law. He called it the biggest tax cut in history. He said it's larger than even the Reagan tax cuts. He talked about the impact to businesses and the impact to middle-class Americans and how they'll see the difference in their paychecks starting in February. He also talked about the individual mandate and getting structure most likely that he thinks that can be done in a bipartisan way.
But celebrating today the signing of this tax bill, which he said will be fantastic for the economy. He said we're already feeling the effects, that it's going to keep jobs in America and bring trillions of dollars in manufacturing and jobs back to America that we have lost overseas. So he's clearly very excited about the potential of this tax bill, which he says is really for the middle class, that it's going to save an average family of four $2,000 in its first year, and that could be a lot of money for a lot of families across America. So he seems pretty excited about that as he heads to Joint Base Andrews and prepares to board a plane
to head to Mar-a-Lago, as you said, to go and celebrate and enjoy some time for the holidays.
Of course, Democrats are blasting this new tax law as destructive for the middle class, with some even calling it the single worst piece of legislation ever. Stay tuned.
At Joseph A. Bank's lowest prices of the year event, save up to 75% store-wide. Fine suits for $179, sport coats $99, dress shirts and sweaters $29. Plus, take an extra 60% off all clearance items. The lowest prices of the year event, only at Joseph A. Bank.
You guys don't happen to know a good handyman, do you?
Maybe.
Outstanding. Could you possibly do a background check on them?
Also, get a bunch of quotes.
Then book an appointment for, say, Tuesday?
You can't expect your neighbors to do everything Home Advisor can. So to find and book a top-rated home pro for free, just ask Home Advisor.
Wayfair, you got just what I need. It's the feeling of done and done. It's so much fun. Easy as a click, and done comes quick. It can even look crazy. That's fun and done, baby. Get a deal turned, or fancy looks fun. Just kick back, relax. With Wayfair, you're done. You know the feeling, yeah, that's the one. It's the feeling of done and done. It's so
this holiday, bring home the feeling at Wayfair.com.
Hi, I'm Annette and I'm an actress. Under eye bags and wrinkles are so frustrating. I came across Plexiderm and I was so excited. We have a model, his name is Richie, and all he's doing is taking a small amount. It's so powerful, that's all it takes. And what I love about Plexiderm is you don't have to worry about the injections, the expensive plastic surgeons, because this is something that you can do in the convenience of your own home.
I was a little skeptical, I am not going to lie, because I saw people online with it. I'm like, yeah, right, that can't possibly work. Honestly, it really works.
I did this to my father at home, one eye so that we can compare. 4 minutes, 34 seconds. The appearance of his under eye bag completely gone. We were screaming. It was so exciting and amazing. You have an event, you have any of those moments where you want to feel the best about yourself. The videos that you see are real. Those are the results you can expect to see.
Visit Plexiderm.com or call the number on your screen.
Welcome back. President Trump at Joint Base Andrews. He is getting ready to depart for Mar-a-Lago, the Winter White House, after just signing tax reform into law, signing the continuing resolution to keep the government funded until mid-January.
You're looking at Marine One, which the president flew on from the South Lawn of the White House to Joint Base Andrews. He will depart Marine One and board Air Force One for that trip down to West Palm Beach and Mar-a-Lago, where he will spend the weekend with his family celebrating Christmas.
He will indeed. And, you know, one of the things that he was just talking about when he was in the Oval Office signing tax reform into laws, he was talking about not just the impact for families of tax reform, but also the impact for businesses, how the corporate tax rate is now decreased from 35% down to 21%. And what he's talking about is how, and there's the president right now as we're speaking, we can see him waving at people. It doesn't look like he's going to stop and take any more questions after he spoke in the Oval Office. But back to what he said in the Oval Office, he was talking about how he believes we're going to see more things, more products made in the United States as a result of tax reform. And, you know, Rick, we were talking about how the what's next. What's next is going into the midterms for Republicans when everyone returns in January. And then the president says the next legislative piece will be infrastructure, and he thinks that that can be done in a bipartisan way.
He's walking towards the camera position. Not clear if he's going to answer questions as he walks by the media on his way to Air Force One. The president said he spoke with Bob Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, who's also in the paper business, and that Bob Kraft is already planning to open a plant down in North Carolina to manufacture paper products. And he said that's because of this historic tax bill that he just signed, that it encourages manufacturing in part because it drops the corporate tax rate from 35% down to 21%, and he believes that will bring jobs back to the U.S. He also called out several companies for giving money back to employees, including AT&T, Boeing, Sinclair, Wells Fargo, and even Comcast, which he pointed out owns NBC. He says he's not a fan of that network, but he credits them with giving money back or planning to give money back to their employees, thanks in part to this historic tax bill, which he just signed. And you see him there taking some photos with some of the members of the military there at Joint Base Andrews.
Yeah, we know he was just visiting members of the military yesterday as well at Walter Reed. That's something that the president typically does this time of year. The president definitely likes to take his time and say hello to people, including members of the military. Back to what he was talking about earlier when he was in the Oval Office, you know, one of the things that he said is that he talked about the individual mandate. And I think that that's going to be so interesting, Rick, to see what happens as we move in and move forward into the new year, removing the individual mandate. He said that ultimately that could lead to the end of Obamacare, and we know that that's been the intent all along. Republicans tried so hard to make that happen this year, weren't able to get it done. It'll be interesting to see what happens with insurance companies and what happens with premiums, because one of the concerns in getting rid of the individual mandate is it's sort of the block that pulls everything from Obamacare, can sort of pull things from underneath and cause it to collapse. And that could start with seeing an increase in premiums. So
I was just thinking about how cool that is for all these folks that are standing on the other side of that fence, the little kids and the people with their phones getting pictures with the president, shaking the president's hand. It's an early Christmas gift for fans of President Trump who gathered there to watch him leave. And then he walks over and he just says hi to him, and he starts posing for pictures and shaking hands. That's pretty cool that the president's doing that right now before he leaves Joint Base Andrews and climbs on their Air Force
You make such a
One
good point, Rick, because, you know, the president's popularity has not been high. And it's moments like these where the president is seen talking to people, greeting people, being out there with people who are his fans that are so important. And I think it probably feels pretty good to him also to see those people right after he signed such a major piece of legislation.
Yeah, I think his base is pretty solid at this point in terms of what he's accomplished, especially the tax bill that he signed today, which, again, he believes will boost the economy, will help the middle class, and will also encourage businesses to keep manufacturing in the U.S., to bring manufacturing back to the U.S., and keep this economy moving forward as it has been since he took office in January of this year.
Yeah, and the economy really has been doing so well. We just got that 3.2% growth. That's really strong. We've seen jobless numbers go down. There's the president just getting on board Air Force One, waving, saying goodbye to everyone as he heads to Mar-a-Lago. He did say that he's going to be working very hard over the holidays, so I'm sure he'll be planning and thinking about thinking about the next moves for the new year and how to support Republicans going into 2018 and going into the fights that they will have to stay in office, to maintain the positions in the Senate and Congress moving into next year's elections.
One thing we learned today, Leah, is that the Oval Office apparently is not fancy. I always thought it was fancy. He said it's not fancy, but it's the Oval Office, and that's where he signed the bill. Instead of having a big ceremony in January, he said he wanted to keep a promise, and I guess it's an early Christmas present, too, for a lot of folks.
Yeah, I think it is, and I love that you just mentioned that he said it wasn't fancy, because I think that really depends on where you come from.
Yeah.
But when you come from Trump Tower to the White House, I guess maybe it doesn't seem like it's that fancy, but certainly a big accomplishment for the president and for Republicans today.
As we look at Air Force One at Joint Base Andrews, majestic jet. They're pulling away the steps now, and I assume they'll be taxiing shortly to take off. We want to dive a little deeper into this tax bill that he just signed. I don't know if you've been paying attention to mainstream media coverage of tax reform, but there was a new article in the Wall Street Journal that says that the press corps is blinded by its own biases, and we want to read you a highlight from that article. To read all this coverage, it says, you'd be justified in believing that the entire Republican Party had been hit with a stupid stick. Its members united to jack up the taxes of millions of middle-income voters, throw the country into recession, and saddle today's toddlers with a future debt crisis, all to enable the transfer of tax plunder to fat cat donors. This is the Democratic line, and the media is embracing it. Are they? Joining us, Kelly Jane Torrance, Deputy Managing Editor for the Weekly Standard, and Aaron Delmore, Senior Political Correspondent for Bustle.com. Thanks to both of you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So the Wall Street Journal points out that 80% of Americans will pay less in taxes, including 90% of the middle class, by an average of $1,600. What about that?
Yeah, it's fascinating that the fact that 50% of Americans are actually against this tax plan. Now, who would be against having money in their pocket? But if you look at polling, 50% of Americans think their taxes are going to be going up next year because of this tax plan. Now, only 5% of Americans are going to be seeing a tax rise. And, you know, researchers debate how much effect the media has on people's thinking. And this seems to me a textbook example making the case that the media does have an effect, because there's really hard to find another explanation for that.
Yeah, Aaron, the media being described as anti-Trump, anti-Republican, so anti-tax bill.
Well, that editorial that you read from the Wall Street Journal has a partisan point of view. And there's been a lot of coverage out there that says that this is a huge achievement for President Trump, that there will be middle-class tax cuts, and that there are benefits to lowering the corporate tax rate. But there's a real question here over the underlying principle for tax reform. It's the question of how much revenue this will bring in, how much growth this will actually bring into the country. And that's a question that deserves to be asked.
Well, the president says it's going to be trillions of dollars, and that a lot of that is because of these corporate tax breaks that many corporations we're hearing are now going to be passing on to workers, including AT&T and Comcast, who are said to be handing out $1,000 bonuses to hundreds of thousands of workers, and then presumably those workers take that $1,000 and spend it.
And that's the underlying principle. And if that comes to pass, that'll make Republicans very, very happy. You have Gary Cohn, who says that he's expecting a 4% growth in GDP over the next 2 years. And you have Steve Mnuchin, who says that these tax cuts will pay for themselves, that they'll generate enough revenue to offset that $1.5 trillion cost. But Goldman Sachs says that they're only expecting 2.5% growth next year and 1.8% growth the year after that. They say 0.3% will be added on from this tax plan, but that falls short of estimations from the administration.
And we are watching Air Force One taxi now. Kelly Jane, this is a clear win for Republicans, even though it keeps getting painted as a loss. And I'm wondering if you think that Democrats will regret not signing on or helping to craft this bill.
It depends, as Aaron pointed out, what happens with the numbers. But I have to say the Democrats, so far, it looks like a win for them in that the media is painting it just how the Democrats want it. And I think this is, again, a perfect example of why the media shouldn't and can't claim ever to be objective, right? This is a huge bill, lots of provisions, some of it kind of complicated. There's no way that any media outlet can explain everything about the bill in a short segment or story. So, of course, they have to pick and choose. And as soon as somebody does that, you're choosing a spin. And that's what we saw with a lot of the headlines that focused on the the corporate tax cuts and didn't mention or downplayed the personal ones. And I think that that's a perfect example of why the media can't claim to be objective, because they can't tell you everything at once, and they, of course, decide what they think is important. I do think a lot of media outlets did focus on the things that they thought Americans wouldn't like about the tax bill.
Well, I want to point out the Wall Street Journal article used one example, and that was USA Today, which it said was so desperate to depict the bill as a tax hike that its analysis of 5 household situations included a childless single renter earning $1 million a year, paying $50,000 in state and local taxes, and claiming $40,000 in charitable deductions. That was one of the examples that USA Today used to point out that this individual would pay close to $2,000 more in taxes. It doesn't seem like a realistic example.
I don't think anyone in America feels sorry for that person, someone who's making $1 million a year and paying, under $2,000 more every year. But that's you make a great point. That's exactly, the media can decide what they're going to show you, and by using that sort of example, they found someone who's going to see their taxes go up. Now, most people are not, and so again, this shows that any story can be spun just about anyway, and they're not lying when they're using that example, but they're not being very helpful.
Example that was used, not with the math behind that example. No one's saying that that's not a factual, accurate representation of how that person's taxes will be changed. They're saying that it wasn't the best example. You can find hundreds of other examples on how this will impact middle-class voters and high-income voters and people who own or have shares in corporations. The reason why the focus is on the corporate tax rate is because it is deeper and those cuts are longer lasting.
As we watch Air Force One now prepare to take off from Joint Base Andrews and head down to Florida for the president's weekend at Mar-a-Lago, Aaron, do you think that he has a right to celebrate on this flight because of the signing of this bill?
It's a huge achievement for President Trump and for Republicans in Congress. This is what they wanted to get done. It hasn't been done in 30 years. So yes, this is a big achievement for him. And if he can get people to see a big difference in their own paychecks, if they feel more economically secure, if they begin spending more money, all of that will help Republicans through the 2018 midterms. But if that's not the intended effect, then that's going to come to bear as well.
Well, and that brings me to my last question for Kelly Jane. How does the president build on this? Can he build on this, considering that no Democrats took part in this particular piece of legislation?
That's a great question, Rick, and that's why I was a little surprised to see the president tweeting today saying that he thought that there was going to be work coming with Democrats, bipartisan work on infrastructure. And I wonder if he's being a little too optimistic. I think the Democrats see Trump as toxic, and they don't want to be seen as working with him at all. And if you look at the last few special elections, there was a very big anti-Trump vote out there. And I think the Democrats have made their political calculations that it's better not to work with Trump, even though they might actually get a few policy wins there, because they're considering the political ramifications more than the policy ramifications of what's going on in Congress right now.
Kelly Jane and Aaron, we want to thank you very much for being with us as we watch Air Force One climb into the skies. And Leah, I know that you are a jet fighter pilot, and I wonder, could you sit down at the controls of Air Force One and just figure it out? Could you fly that bird right there?
Absolutely.
Yes, really?
I'm totally joking.
No.
100% no, I could not. Not right now. I mean, I could be trained to fly that.
What if you had like a 5 minutes? You got to fly this thing.
Let's just say that if I had to land it, I would get a lot of information. I'd get people on the radio with me and get some help and try to put it down. But no, it would take a little more than 5 minutes to learn how to fly Air Force One.
Yeah.
The pilots who fly it, very, very qualified, as you can imagine. But I do think about, flying and some of the times when it felt really amazing. And this just must be a really wonderful feeling for the president as he's departing Washington and has this legislative accomplishment under his belt.
Absolutely.
And speaking of airplanes, an end to airstrikes, and that's at least for Australia. So why the country is ending airstrike operations in Iraq and Syria? That's next.
The Australian government has determined that we will bring home our 6 Super Hornet strike aircraft from the Middle East, marking the end of Australia's airstrike operations in Iraq and Syria.
On April 4th, the world's largest investment bank purchased $300 million of gold for their own account. What do they know that you don't? Investors are snapping up gold. This commodity is on the verge of an epic comeback. Gold and silver, opportunity of a lifetime.
We're seeing a lot of very big, very smart money
move into precious metals. They get it. They know what's coming.
Call now and get this exclusive video. See why banks, billionaires, and financial experts are buying gold.
The richest guys who know what they're talking about, like Dalio and those guys, they're shifting into gold now.
Call Lear Capital at 1-800-452-5050 for your free video and special report, Banks, Billionaires, and Plan B. First-time callers receive this revolutionary gold note. It's a 1/20th gram of pure gold pressed into a paper-thin dollar-sized bill.
Everybody should have gold in their portfolio.
Get your free information and ask how you can receive up to $600 in free gold. Call 1-800-452-5050.
Bonuses, stocks, pay hikes, why some companies love the tax bill and employees should too. Plus, how Amazon stole Christmas. Find out on the next Cost of Freedom.
Did you know that a dirty CPAP system can make you sick? If you knew what could be growing in your mask and hose, it would keep you up at night. Now SoClean.com has released the world's first and only automated hands-free CPAP cleaner and sanitizer. With its patented design, SoClean is fast, effective, and hands-free, killing 99.9% of all CPAP germs. Try SoClean now through this special TV offer free for 30 days. Just call 800-650-4157.
My health has improved. It's simple to use, and I'm not worried about infections.
SoClean works on all CPAP machines and popular masks, destroying CPAP bacteria, viruses, and germs without the daily hassle of washing your system by hand. Just place your mask in, close the lid, and in just minutes, voila! Sanitized and ready to use. Try SoClean risk-free for 30 days. This is a limited time offer. Call now, 800-650-4157. Or visit SoClean.com today.
Hi, I'm Dana Lash from The Dana Show. If you could be more heart healthy just by drinking a glass of delicious superfood, would you do it? Of course you would. There's one superfood I drink every day for healthy circulation and to make me feel great all day long. It's called Super Beets, and you can try it for yourself risk-free. Beets contain a nutrient that increases your own natural energy. It supports healthy blood pressure, too. And Super Beets gives you the benefit of 3 whole beets. I take Super Beets as my pre-workout in the morning and as a non-jittery pick-me-up in the afternoon.
Give Super Beets a try for 2 weeks. 1 week, just 1 week, and you will see a difference, I promise.
Don't wait another day to start increasing your energy.
With your first order, get another 30-day supply of Super Beets free, plus our test strips to see how Super Beets is working for you, and free shipping. Try Super Beets. You'll love it or your money back. Order your Super Beets today.
Call 1-800-495-4034 or visit buysuperbeets.com now.
Australia putting an end to airstrikes in Iraq and Syria. The country planning to send its fighter jets home soon. The move comes after the Iraqi prime minister declared victory over the Islamic State. Australia's defense minister says the country will still help with the region with services like surveillance.
And a big change coming to Google. Eric Schmidt is stepping down as executive chairman of Google's parent company, Alphabet. He's been at Google since 2001 and has been key in growing the company from just another search engine into an internet behemoth. Lauren Simnetti joins us now with the details. Lauren?
Leah, Merry Christmas. Hi, everybody. So Silicon Valley shocked by this. A 17-year Alphabet vet, Eric Schmidt, stepping down from his position as executive chairman of the company. He was brought in a few years after Google was started to guide the then scrappy company and its 20-something founders, Larry Page and Sergey Brin. They're all grown up now, so is the company. Several businesses at Google, each amassing at least 1 billion users, whether it's Maps or Gmail, Android, YouTube, you name it. Eric Schmidt will now transition to his new role as technical advisor. That happens next month. He does stay on the company's board of directors. This is the statement he released. Larry, Sergey, and Sundar, that's the CEO of Google, and I all believe that the time is right in Alphabet's evolution for this transition. The Alphabet structure is working well, and Google and the other bets are thriving. Adding that he's going to focus on his charity work. But look, his departure seemed sudden to many. The New York Post is reporting that Schmidt is looking to develop artificial intelligence for defense, and his retreat raises questions about the future for Google. He had long defended it against charges that it was too powerful, too invasive, and he certainly helped shareholders reap pretty big rewards Alphabet is now valued at $740 billion. Stock price up about 35% this year, Leah.
Yeah, Lauren, I was thinking Google, its structure is definitely well in place, as you put it, but maybe we'll hear more about this departure and why. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
$740 billion?
Yeah.
There are growing demands for answers after a report claims the Obama administration blocked efforts to stop Hezbollah from drug trafficking into the United States. Why he would do that? Coming up in Outnumbered.
Honey, can we do this tomorrow?
Can we do this tomorrow?
If you have heart failure symptoms, your risk of hospitalization could increase, making tomorrow uncertain. But Entresto is a medicine that was proven in the largest heart failure study ever to help more people stay alive and out of the hospital than a leading heart failure medicine. Women who are pregnant must not take Entresto. It can cause harm or death to an unborn baby. Don't take Entresto with an ACE inhibitor or aliskiren. If you've had angioedema while taking an ACE or ARB medicine, don't take Entresto. The most serious side effects are angioedema, low blood pressure, kidney problems, or high potassium in your blood.
Tomorrow, tomorrow.
When can you do this again, Grandpa?
Well, how about tomorrow?
Ask your doctor about Entresto and help make tomorrow possible.
Merry Christmas.
Why are there so many miles on it?
What?
For great offers, visit your local Jaguar retailer during the Unwrap a Jaguar sales event.
It's resourceful, elusive, shrewd. Cancer is smart. It pushes us. We push back. We even push each other to challenge conventional thinking, find smarter solutions. That's what makes us one of the leaders in precision cancer treatment, forging ahead with technology that wasn't available to cancer patients just a short time ago, like advanced genomic testing, a diagnostic tool that lets us see cancer at the molecular level, then helps us find different ways to target it, and immunotherapy, a treatment that actually makes your immune system smarter, trains it to attack the cancer in your body. This is what we live for, giving our patients compassionate care by offering them more precise and less invasive treatment options than before. That's what makes us Cancer Treatment Centers of America. We're not just fighting cancer anymore, we're outsmarting it. The evolution of cancer care is here.
The cordless Black & Decker Power Series Pro, our most powerful cordless vacuums, because real life can't be stopped.
Wayfair, you got just what I need. It's the feeling of done and done. It's so much fun. Easy as a click, and done comes quick. It can even look crazy. That's fun and done, baby. Get a deal tons, or fancy looks fun. Just kick back, relax. With Wayfair, you're done. You know the feeling, yeah, that's the one. It's the feeling of done and done. It's so
This holiday, bring home the feeling at wayfair.com.
And now for the coolest thing we've seen all day. A sign that winter is here, a huge ice castle in Colorado. Check that out. This is in the Rocky Mountains, about 70 miles west of Denver. Apparently it has a slide inside. The ice is up to 25 feet tall, and the castle covers nearly 3/4 of an acre. And as you can see, it even comes to life at night with color-changing lights. Not open to the public yet, open apparently to the public next week. I have no idea. We have no idea who built this.
Well, I was just looking actually online, and this is in Dillon, Colorado. If you've ever been there, I know you snowboard. I ski and I snowboard too. And it's close to like Vail and A Basin and some of the really popular places. And they basically say, make sure that you wear boots. And they say that
And
Yeah, if you have-
gloves.
and gloves. And they say if you have kids that you should bring sleds instead of strollers, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But it looks like a beautiful place. They also have ice. They also have fire shows at night, so performers with fire. It's
All
pretty,
right.
pretty neat.
Be careful with the fire in the ice castle. You don't want that thing to melt.
I know.
Thanks very much for joining us.
It's great to be here with you. Outnumbered starts right now.
We begin with a Fox News alert. President Trump is now headed for Mar-a-Lago, Florida, after signing a historic tax bill into law. He also signed a bill to keep the government running through mid-January. The president is now set to spend the holidays in Florida as he looks ahead to a very busy 2018. Not that 2017 wasn't busy. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner, here today from the Fox Business Network. Dagan McDowell, Republican strategist and Fox News contributor Lisa Booth, Democratic strategist and Fox News contributor Jessica Tarlov, and outnumbered today, Fox News contributor and political editor of townhall.com, Guy Benson. What a guy. It never gets old, really.
Those intros, you were like an NBA stadium announcer.
I did
going
sports for a
around the
little while.
couch.
Early in my career.
That was good.
Yeah.
You're feeling the Christmas spirit, I can
And
tell.
news director said, stick with news.
I don't know
Take
about
that personally?
now. I thought I was going to be a singer. My mom said this wasn't going to happen. Lessons you have to learn growing up. Right?
Maybe she'll sing for us this hour. Let's do the news. President Trump, again, is headed for Mar-a-Lago for Christmas. Before he left the White House just a few minutes ago, he signed two big bills into law. A bill to keep the government running through the middle of January, January 19th, and the historic tax bill that marks his first major legislative victory. Here he is.
I watched the news. As you know, we had the largest tax cuts in our history just approved. And I was going to wait for a formal signing sometime in early January, but then I watched the news this morning and they were all saying, will he keep his promise? Will he sign it by Christmas? You were one. But will he sign it by Christmas? And I called downstairs. I said, get it ready. We have to sign it now. Bottom line is this is the biggest tax cuts and reform in the history of our country. This is bigger than actually President Reagan's many years ago. I'm very honored by it. And all of this, everything in here, is really tremendous things for businesses, for people, for the middle class, for workers.
Big day. Chief White House correspondent John Roberts is live at the White House. John?
It was a big day, Harris. Good afternoon to you. This was the president's biggest legislative issue item. This was the thing that he campaigned on during the campaign and talked about as president for the last 11 months. Obamacare went first because he wanted to get extra money in there to put into this tax reform package. But tax reform was, for lack of a better phrase, the big kahuna for President Trump. He got it done kind of in record amount of time in terms of going from Congress down here to the White House. It's a huge bill. It had to go through the enrollment process, and the White House had to review it. But they got it in time for him to put pen to paper this morning and sign it just before he took off for his Christmas break. Listen to more of what the president said this morning.
This is the bill right here, and we're very proud of it. It's going to be a tremendous thing for the American people. I didn't want you folks to say that I wasn't keeping my promise. I am keeping my promise. I'm signing it before Christmas. I said that the bill would be on my desk before Christmas, and you are holding me literally to that. So we did a rush job today. It's not fancy, but it's the Oval Office.
No Democratic support for this bill. It passed only with Republican support. The president would like to change that next year. He's got some big legislative agenda items that he wants to get through, some of which will need Democratic support. One of those is rebuilding America's infrastructure. The president tweeting this morning, quote, at some point, and for the good of the country, I predict we will start working with the Democrats in a bipartisan fashion. Infrastructure would be a perfect place to start after having foolishly spent $7 trillion in the Middle East. It's time to start rebuilding our country. The president talked about the positive effects of tax reform already. Big corporations like Boeing, AT&T, Comcast, Wells Fargo, and Fifth Third Bank all giving out either Christmas bonuses to employees or increasing their minimum wage to $15 an hour. Boeing actually saying that it was going to increase charitable contributions because of that. While it is possible that the president could get bipartisan support for infrastructure, Harris, a couple of other agenda items he's got that will be much more difficult to attract Democratic support. Immigration reform, though he does want to get that DACA fix done, and that'll involve Democrats, and welfare reform. It's not likely that a lot of Democrats will want to sign on to welfare reform, but like President Clinton did in 1996, President Trump could use the reconciliation process to get welfare reform through on a simple majority. So we'll see where that goes. No question, a lot to come in 2018. If 2017 wasn't busy enough for you, just wait a little while.
Yep, you got it. Add water and stir. John Roberts, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, my friend.
And to you, too.
Thank you. You know what I'm noticing is kind of a trend, as John Roberts was reporting there? The president isn't looking to just get DACA. He's not looking just for tax cuts. It's a reformation. Why is that? Because that makes things more difficult to get. You heard immigration reform, welfare reform. Why is that, do you think?
Well, I think reform is a buzzword in Washington, which is basically changing the law to make it what you want it to be.
Oh, thank you. Okay, all right.
So that's the framing of it, right? The thing that struck me, Harris, watching the video there from the president as it came in, and we talked about this morning on Maria Bartiromo's show, Dagan, I was a little bit confused that they were going to have this not live, not dramatic signing ceremony with the president all by himself in the Oval Office. It seemed like a big missed opportunity, optics-wise, for the White House. And then we heard what the president actually said, and his explanation made perfect sense to me, which is, I want to get this thing signed as soon as possible, keep the pre-Christmas promise, get this thing, the logistics implemented as soon as possible. And then they said there's going to be another ceremony coming up in the new year to remind everyone about tax reform. And my recommendation for the White House, go out and find middle-class families from across the country that are going to benefit from this tax reform bill. It won't be hard to find them because it's 80% of Americans. Have them surrounding the president when he does the more symbolic ceremony and drive that point home.
You know, I wonder, though, if the Republicans, Lisa, aren't in the risk of looking the mission accomplished banner like. You know, you heard the president say, you've heard others among lawmakers who helped pass the tax legislation. February 1st is really when you start to feel that. Why don't you do it on February 2nd? Right? Then you have everybody with their paychecks, or February 10th, or whatever it is, that you open up that paycheck and you really start to see it.
See, if I was the Republicans and President Trump, I would be pushing this as the massive political win that it absolutely is, because the media sure isn't going to give them credit. So President Trump, Republicans need to go out there, claim that banner, because this is a huge win. This is something they've been trying to get done for 30 years. And it's not just tax reform. It's drilling in Anwar, something that proponents have been trying to get done for 40 years. It's the repeal of the individual mandate, something Republicans have been promising for 8 years now. And so this is a massive win. And for a president who the left and the media has continued to criticize for his truthfulness, this is a president who has demonstrated that he keeps his promises. You can go down the list: immigration, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, pushing back on ISIS, confirming Neil Gorsuch, and
crushing
ISIS. The list goes on and on and on about him keeping his promises.
And the regulatory reform has been a huge thing that has been driving the stock market this year. We can't, one new regulation, 22 regulations gone, because you had an entire, talk about reformation, a government takeover of student loans, of the internet, of essentially health care in this country. Dodd-Frank regulations under Obama, a lot of that has been rolled back. But
so my question, though, was specifically about risk. And what I hear you saying, Lisa, is you don't buy into that at all. Just go out and get it done.
Right.
This is such a huge win, because I followed each little baby step of them putting this plan together, starting with they were going to have that border adjustment tax. That was the original Paul Ryan idea.
Which was heavily criticized by many Republicans.
There were so many dumb ideas that were thrown out, reducing 401k contributions, changing the way that capital gains are handled for retail investors.
Are you happy with where it is now?
Adoption? Yes, they didn't, but those things didn't end up in this. And the fact that they coalesced around something that is pro-growth, that hands a tax cut to 80% or more Americans, that it is astonishing.
Jessica, before I come to you, my big question for you is, when do Democrats jump into the warmer waters now? But before that, the president actually talked earlier, just moments ago, about what he has learned in terms of working with people in Congress and shaping relationships. Let's watch that.
It's been a process. It's been a great process, really beautiful. But I do believe that the fact that I have gotten to know so many of these people, and many of these people, I have to say, I'm not saying all, but I'm saying many of these people are great people that truly love this country. So I think that helps. And I think you'll see that in this legislation.
You also saw the president talking about when the time is for bipartisanship, those opportunities. He fully anticipates infrastructure. He said that'll be the easiest thing he does. So when did Democrats jump in?
I think they certainly jump in if infrastructure is what comes next. He'll have to talk to Paul Ryan, who wants welfare reform next. I think that's a major mistake for Republicans to go after that right now, because if you get into a fight with Democrats about entitlement reform after you've had this arguably huge win on the tax reform bill or the tax bill, I think that doesn't bode well. Infrastructure, Donald Trump knows he's an infrastructure guy. I mean, he builds buildings, and he's worked with Democrats his whole life. He's a New Yorker. We're full of Democrats here. And I think that he's smart to say that that's the moment. But to your question to Lisa about the riskiness here.
I want to say something about infrastructure, though. This is critically important. You have several $trillion, $2.5 trillion thereabouts. President Trump says it's $4 trillion of money, of profits that are overseas, that with a 15.5% repatriation tax that is in this tax reform bill, if that money comes back here, it's taxed immediately, and it has been talked about by major politicians that that's one way that they could pay for infrastructure. And that is why the Democrats won't get on board with it, because that would hand the president a win. So let's get ready for Pelosi pothole to try and help her.
I'm really not sure that that's true. We all are acutely aware of the fact that we have 10 Democrat senators up for re-election in states that went blood red for Donald Trump. Joe Manchin needs to do this stuff. Claire McCaskill, Heidi Heitkamp.
You think they would do it?
I do think
Heidi
they will.
Heitkamp was literally making up things about this tax bill.
Heidi Heitkamp got on Air Force One and stood up there on the same stage with Donald Trump to appeal to North Dakotans to say, I understand that you voted for this man and that some of his agenda does appeal to you.
She said that it was going to be a $9,000 tax hike on people in her state, and it's a lie. She couldn't read a
Do you know
chart.
how many lies come out of both sides? And it's unfortunate.
She couldn't read numbers, and she still hasn't retracted it.
I'm pretty confident that Heidi Heitkamp can read numbers. I'm also confident that we know what we need to do to win, and some of that might be to stand on stage with Donald Trump and to work together on infrastructure to make sure.
Against him. All right. Like, so she stood on stage with him and then voted no.
Yeah, but that bill is not good for Americans.
I want to assure everyone that our Christmas spirit is strong. All right. Well, it looks like Democrats have their work cut out for them in 2018. They have failed to deliver on a fix for DACA, the Obama-era program that protects from deportation thousands of undocumented immigrants brought here as children. Before the Senate vote on the spending bill yesterday, or the continuing resolution to kick it to January 19th, members of the Hispanic Caucus, a 31-member group of the House and Senate Democrats, gathered in Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer's office, trying to push him to do more for those so-called dreamers. It reportedly got pretty heated. Congressional leaders have signaled they'll revisit the DACA issue in the new year. The program ends March 5th, so you got another looming deadline. Lisa?
Well, look, so March 5th is like forever in congressional terms. So that's
it's 2 government shutdowns away.
Yeah, we are so far away from that. It's like a year away. So I think that's why this isn't getting done right now. And I also think that I would have to guess that Speaker Ryan and Majority Leader Mitch McConnell gave assurances to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer that something's going to get done on DACA. But if you're President Trump, this is the opportunity for him to leverage DACA to get some of his immigration priorities done. So I think it would be malpractice for him to not push for funding for the border wall, not push for the RAISE Act, not push for some of these principles that he's campaigned on and that he said were his priorities.
Yeah, Guy?
I think the contours for a deal on DACA are there. And I went back when this first arose as an issue when President Trump canceled Obama's policy. I went back and looked at that Gang of 8 bill that passed the Senate but not the House during the end of the Obama administration. And in that bill, which all the Senate Democrats supported, it called for 700 miles of completed fencing, a physical barrier, and a doubling of border agents.
Well, and Democrats have voted for fencing
they all
as well.
voted for it. So I think if you're going to say, let's do this DACA thing, which I think is fair and the right thing to do, let's get some border security in there as well. And here's what Democrats are already on the record supporting. I think that's how this gets done.
Well, here's how we know that the president has that in mind, because when he spoke at his last cabinet meeting, we think, for the year, he said, you never know, but it was supposed to be.
They could all show up at Mar-a-Lago.
He specifically talked about how he wants to go down and visit the wall and see those half-dozen prototypes that they've been working on. Remember, in Arizona, we had it on overtime about a month ago when they were choosing, and we sent a reporter down. We got to kick the tires and see those prototypes. The president has said that's next on his to-do list, and wouldn't it be, I mean, it's kind of sequential, right? For him to fold that into someplace with the legislation they're working on. Dagan?
Well, what's going on in Mexico, too, gives him support for his idea to really crack down on illegal immigration. This is going to be the deadliest year in modern history for Mexico in terms of murders. You have stories about, bodies hanging off bridges in tourist destinations. This teenager killed because he said something negative on social media about a drug cartel kingpin. So I think that that resonates with the American people. And also to Nancy Pelosi's point, DACA, I said this on this very couch, that she literally was more concerned about 700,000 people under DACA than the 140 million people that this tax reform now law impacts. And I think in terms of optics,
the Dreamers don't feel that way at all. Remember when she got bum rushed at the lectern almost 2 months ago now? They were not happy with her focus and what it has been on DACA. So even though you may feel like there's a sliver, the sliver isn't even happy.
No, but we do know, which rarely happens, that we have politicians on both sides of the aisle that are making DACA their priority. Jeff Flake said when he went into negotiations to get a yes vote on the tax reform bill, he said that he wanted the provisions for DACA, and he got a little steamrolled there, I think, on that front. So I do see this happening. I agree with you that it should be attached for Republicans' benefit and, frankly, for the safety of Americans, and even messaging for Democrats going into 2018 that we do need to have some enhanced border security measures that we can say, hey, we heard you. We know how you reacted to what happened to Kate Steinle and the verdict there, and we know what's going on in some of these sanctuary cities.
That would be a little revisionist history, though, because we didn't hear from many Democrats when that was going on.
No,
just
we didn't hear from Hillary Clinton either because she was actually criticized. Was it Chris Matthews had criticized her for not dressing illegality during the campaign? He said that hurt her. So that's interesting for you to make that point.
I mean, you have to. Donald Trump certainly won, at least in part, to the harsh rhetoric about illegal immigrants who come here and hurt people, not the 11 million who are here and are working hard and want their kids to have a better life.
Have a real opportunity, and they may use it, as I'm hearing, because there is some shifting now in how they would see handling issues like DACA and immigration for families, keeping those core families together.
And let's hope those stories where they're separating families do not continue.
He went on turning the economy around, and today was a mic drop.
All right. Okay. Mic drop for you. Democrats make their pick for the top guy on the House Judiciary Committee, not our guy there. And it may show they're preparing to push for the president's impeachment. We'll talk about that. And new reaction to the explosive report this week alleging that the Obama administration gave a major terrorist group a pass in order to preserve the nuclear deal with Iran. Stay close.
Plus 60% off designer suits. You're gonna like the way he looks.
Good questions lead to good answers. Our advisors can help you find both. Talk to one today and see why we're bullish on the future. Yours.
Well, here's to first dates. You look amazing.
And you look amazingly comfortable.
When your V-neck looks more like a U-neck, that's when you know it's half-washed. Add Downy to keep your collars from stretching. Unlike detergent alone, Downy conditions to smooth and strengthen fibers. So next time, don't half-wash it. Downy, and it's done.
Psoriatic arthritis tries to get in my way? Watch me.
I've tried lots of things for my joint pain. Now, watch me.
Think I'd give up showing these guys how it's done? Please.
Real people with active psoriatic arthritis are changing the way they fight it. They're moving forward with Cosentyx. It's a different kind of targeted biologic. It's proven to help people find less joint pain and clearer skin. Don't use if you are allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting Cosentyx, you should be checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms of an infection, or if you have received a vaccine or plan to. If you have inflammatory bowel disease, tell your doctor if symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions may occur.
With less joint pain, watch me.
For less joint pain and clearer skin, ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
Rooted in racism, trees separate a California golf course and black neighborhood. Now, Larry Elder reacts to the decades-old controversy on Tucker Carlson Tonight.
Hi, I'm Joan London with A Place for Mom. Every day we hear from families who partnered with a senior living advisor from A Place for Mom to help find the perfect place for their mom or dad.
Thank you so much for your assistance in helping us find a place. Mom feels safe and comfortable and has met many wonderful residents and staffers.
Thank you for helping our family find our father a new home. We especially appreciate the information about the VA Aid and Attendance Program.
I feel I found the right place, a perfect fit. You were my angel and helped guide me every step of the way. Thank you.
The senior living advisors at A Place for Mom partner with thousands of families every month, listening and offering local knowledge and advice to help find the best senior living communities across the country. And it won't cost you a cent. This is a free service. Call today. A Place for Mom. You know your family. We know senior living. Together, we'll make the right choice.
A growing number of Republicans demanding answers after an investigative report claims the Obama administration gave a free pass to Hezbollah's drug trafficking and money laundering operations, and did it to make sure the Iran nuclear deal stayed on track. Senator Ben Sasse asking the Justice, Treasury, and State Departments for, quote, answers to these disturbing allegations. And the Nebraska Republican adding in his letter, quote, if the administration did so in order to shore up its foolish nuclear deal with Iran, it was a mistake of historical proportions, a mistake the consequences of which reach from the battlefields of Syria to the streets of Omaha and Scotts Bluff. Wow. Guy, these are incredible charges, but I think for anybody who feels like this is a bad deal to begin with, this makes it smell bad, even worse.
Yeah, and you start to wonder, were there no depths to which the Obama administration was unwilling to go in order to pursue this terrible nuclear deal with an Iranian regime that cheats all the time, that their leaders chant death to America. It was a lopsided, terrible deal. And apparently the Obama administration was able to let Hezbollah, a terrorist organization, off the hook for a drug trafficking ring, which they used to cull money for terrorist activities, and we turned a blind eye to it deliberately to grease the skids for this nuclear deal with the regime in Tehran, which is extraordinary. That's the foreign policy side of it. Part of the reason that this story really bothers me, there's a great column today in the New York Post from David Harsanyi, who's tracking the media coverage or lack thereof of this particular story. It came out in Politico. This was a meticulously sourced, multiple named sources, documents that back up this story, and it has been greeted with near silence from most of the mainstream media.
Except for the Wall Street Journal editorial page. They wrote an editorial about it. And one of the quotes is an Obama Treasury official telling the House Foreign Affairs Committee that under the Obama administration, Hezbollah-related, quote, investigations were tamped down for fear of rocking the boat with Iran.
Wow.
Jeopardizing the nuclear deal.
Look, this is the administration that gave us the talking point from the president himself of a JV team for the Islamic State savages, as I call them. And look how long it took us, not the decade that some Democrats said that it would take us to take them down out of their nesting hole in Raqqa, Syria. But look how long it did take us, though, because we were under the determination by the Obama administration that they were not big players on the landscape of terrorism. But, you know, this causes, I think, and I'll be quick with this, a look at what we've recently learned from Ambassador Nikki Haley's investigation at the UN and those warehouse sites that were behind her, that she's invited other countries to look at that map, that poster board, and see where the Iranian markings were on weapons that are killing so many people and forcing a humanitarian crisis in Yemen through a proxy war. It makes me look to see, well, how long had that been going on? And does this also fall into that category of the Obama administration wanting to tamp things down? But maybe not look. It's just a question.
Well, and we knew this, though. even as we were negotiating as a nation this Iran nuclear deal, Iran, then and now, state sponsor of terrorism.
The number one in the world.
Number one, funneling money to terrorist organizations. Hezbollah in Yemen, these Yemen rebels firing these missiles that you're talking about at Saudi Arabia. We knew this. And this administration, as part of this nuclear deal with Iran, shipped $1.7 billion in cash, pallets of cash, in the middle of the night, and we would never know about it if not for the Wall Street Journal.
Let's just put this in a nutshell, too. I mean, President Obama, essentially by turning a blind eye, propped up Hezbollah with $1 billion, they said, in a year they profited off of this, for his legacy. To protect his legacy, which was the Iran deal. And it wasn't just the Obama administration turning a blind eye. It's the media. Newsbusters reported on the media blackout from ABC, CBS, and NBC on this story, which was well-sourced. Meanwhile, running countless stories about the Russia investigation that has turned out not to be true from anonymous sources.
Well, listen, I think it is a great disservice to everybody that the entire news media is talking about this story. It's an amazing read. Everyone should look at it. And there have been a number of prominent journalists from a bunch of networks who are calling that out. Jake Tapper was tweeting about it, saying, how is this guy who wrote it not the #1 guest on every single show? And I think that's important.
Well, how is it? Why is it?
Well, I'm not a booker. I would have.
Take a guess. If you were to guess why this is not a huge story, what would the reason be?
Liberal bias?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to give it to you.
Look,
I would
Jessica's
say also
very candid. Listen to her. She is.
I mean, what have I got to lose at this point?
I'm glad that you said it.
What does she have to lose?
Right. When Trump said it, that wasn't cute, though. You said that Iran cheats on the deal constantly. Rex Tillerson and a number of officials have said that's not
Iran
the case.
Cheats,
Nikki Haley,
cheats generally.
the evidence that she put out there at the UN, there are a number of defense officials that are pushing back on that, who are saying that they can't be sure as to when that drone
was
up there.
pushed back.
No, I'm just saying that these aren't. Officials say about this? Do they say they are cheating on the deal?
Iran cheats systematically on almost everything.
Yes.
That's my point.
State sponsor of terrorism funneling our cash to these terrorist organizations.
Wasn't it their cash in the first place?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. You know what? The courts actually have held up Iranian assets in these banks in the United States because it's owed to the families of those victims of terrorism. Right on the heels of an epic win on tax reform, new reports that there could be some tension in the White House over the 2018 midterms. Will recent legislative victories help secure seats for Republicans, or do they have reason to be worried?
I tried hard to quit smoking. But when we brought our daughter home, that was it. Now I have Nicoderm CQ.
The Nicoderm CQ patch with unique extended release technology helps prevent your urge to smoke all day.
It's the best thing that ever happened to me. Every great why needs a great how.
There's a new place for senior care, a place with flexible meal plans and 24-hour room service. A place where seniors get the care they need in the comfort of home. Home Instead Senior Care.
Taking a drive to see the holiday lights. Whoa. Brought some candy so the kids don't fight.
Whoa. Off to grandma's to celebrate. Whoa. Had to detour, so we're gonna be late. Whoa. Holiday road.
Get on the holiday road in a Honda Pilot. Now during the Happy Honda Day sales event. Ends January 2nd.
Looks like you're not sleeping well.
Yeah. How did you know? Hey, Megan!
What? Hey, you're that guy.
The My Pillow guy.
That's right, and I'm here to help you get the best sleep of your lives. Oh, you have a down pillow. Here's the problem with down pillows. You lay there, you feel comfortable, and guess what? It goes down, and you got one bent neck. So this pillow's no good, and I see you sleeping on memory foam.
Right.
Well, I'll show you what's wrong with that idea.
Okay.
Sleep's all about too high or too low, and I'm going to show you where your comfort level would be.
You know, that feels better.
Right, that's better, but I'm not going to sit and hold this all day. So every morning you're getting up like, you know, it's not good. Just like all of you out there, I had problems sleeping. I had tried every pillow out there and none of them worked. That's why I invented My Pillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck aligned. My Pillow will hold its shape all night long, regardless of your sleep position, for the best sleep of your life.
It feels great to wake up in the morning and feel well rested. It's shocking to me that a pillow could make this big of a difference in my life.
I make all my pillows in my home state of Minnesota, and I back them with my 60-day money-back guarantee. My Pillow has a 10-year warranty, and it's machine washable and dryable. Sleep is one of the most important things to your health, and My Pillow is one of the most important things to your sleep.
Call or go online to order My Pillow Premium, and Mike will give you a second pillow absolutely free. Use the promo code on your screen to get 2 My Pillows for the price of 1. Don't delay. Order now.
You're sleeping better.
Much better.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
If your moderate to severe ulcerative colitis or Crohn's symptoms are holding you back, and your current treatment hasn't worked well enough, it may be time for a change. Ask your doctor about Entyvio, the only biologic developed and approved just for UC and Crohn's. Entyvio works at the site of inflammation in the GI tract and is clinically proven to help many patients achieve both symptom relief and remission. Infusion and serious allergic reactions can happen during or after treatment. Entyvio may increase risk of infection, which can be serious. PML, a rare, serious, potentially fatal brain infection caused by a virus, may be possible. This condition has not been reported with Entyvio. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, experience frequent infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Liver problems can occur with Entyvio. If your UC or Crohn's treatment isn't working for you, ask your gastroenterologist about Entyvio. Entyvio, relief and remission within reach.
Well, hot off the heels of its historic tax reform victory, the White House now is turning its attention to the 2018 midterms. After recent Republican losses in Alabama, New Jersey, and Virginia, there are reportedly growing fears of more congressional setbacks, which could paralyze the president's legislative agenda moving into next year. This as President Trump gathered Wednesday in the Oval Office with top aides, including Chief of Staff John Kelly, Counselor Kellyanne Conway, Communications Director Hope Hicks, and Political Director Bill Sepien, to talk about the political environment ahead of the midterms. Also there, former campaign manager Corey Lewandowski and former Trump 2016 digital director Brad Parscale. The president reportedly also met with former White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus on the very same topic just earlier this week. Now, some reports are that it got kind of contentious in that meeting, and that there might not be unison agreement on how you go forward. How much do you use the president? How much do you
imagine that? Disunity in the Republican Party.
Or in that room.
It's a very unified moment because of tax reform, but I do think a lot of Republicans are looking at the polling, which has double-digit generic ballot leads for Democrats in almost every poll, and that is a worrisome sign. And you look at, from a Republican perspective, you look at the gender gap going so heavily against Republicans. You look at the enthusiasm of turnout in places like Virginia, I think was a bellwether. Something has to change. So I think the House is definitely in jeopardy for Republicans. The Senate map is very kind to the GOP, but they're going to have to knock off some Senate Democrats who represent Trump states. And I think if the White House is going to be smart about this, they're going to look at the polling state by state and pinpoint he is still popular in North Dakota, West Virginia, Missouri, Indiana. Deploy him to places where the most vulnerable Democrats are seated, and leave it to just those.
I have a question for you, Lisa, because you've worked on campaigns before. So how does it work? I know it's a holiday season, but it's also a good time to talk with people. So do you think this White House thing goes and does its own polling? And what kind of questions do you ask? The president hovering some as low as 33, 32% on popularity, as high as 35. That's still relatively low, historically speaking. So how do you punch that up so you can widen it out besides those states where he won or did well?
Well, yeah, I've worked during two wave elections now, 2010 and 2014. But look, to be fair to President Trump, it's the same with any president, right? President Obama wasn't going around campaigning in every congressional district or every state. You go and campaign in the states where you can help boost the candidate on the ballot that you're trying to help. So they're going to be judicious about what states they send the president to. So, I mean, that's just the same.
Yeah.
Exactly. And look, I do think the House is more in play than the Senate. Democrats just need to knock off 24
But how do you attack that unpopularity? What do you do? I mean, is the White House looking to, I mean, you've got the tax reform.
Each candidate focuses on the congressional district at hand, the state on hand, and Democrats do have a very big uphill battle in the Senate. There's only one state, the state of Nevada, where Hillary Clinton won the state where there's a GOP incumbent. Meanwhile, Senate Democrats are defending 10 Senate seats that President Trump won in, 5 that he won by double digits. So the Senate map is not favorable for Democrats, and the chances of them knocking that off are going to be tough.
I caution the Democrats for being overconfident because, again, what are you going to run on? We hope the tax reform fails. We hope that you don't get more money in your paycheck, because that's a lot of the messaging that you've heard in the last week. Frankenstein from Nancy Pelosi, Armageddon, end of the world.
Apocalypse,
that doesn't resonate with people. Then, on the other hand, you watch what has happened on the Judiciary Committee in the House. The top Democrat on that committee is now from New York, big Democrat, Gerald Nadler. His specialty, impeachment. So what is their platform? Hey, if you elect us to these seats, we're going to impeach the president. Well, that does not connect.
Well, that doesn't hand anybody any greater life than they already have now. I mean, people vote based on what will happen in their own lives.
100% that they will, but
Trump rates better than the actual Republicans in Congress do. 40% in the new Wall Street Journal poll say he's made the economy better.
If it's just on the economy, I could understand this not being as bad for Republicans. But if you look at the generic ballot, which Guy pointed out here, you're talking 13 to 15 points ahead for Dems. I agree. I don't think we're going to take back the Senate. I think that we have to just work really hard to defend in those red states. And that's fine for the status quo. As far as Jerry Nadler just specializing in impeachment, there's a lot more to him, and he is my congressman as well. I think that he was a smart pick. He is an experienced legislator. I personally am not a fan of the impeachment track. Nancy Pelosi isn't as well. Chuck Schumer isn't either. There are 25 Democrats.
Nadler wrote on a leaflet outlining his record. Nadler is our strongest member to lead a potential impeachment.
Yeah, Jerry Nadler has had decades long of a career. Just that is not the only thing that defines him. I totally take your point, but Democrats would be silly to lead with that as the policy for 2018. We can talk about economic policies the Democratic Party support that will make people better off, like raising the minimum wage. We can talk about health care.
They voted against $15 minimum wage at Wells Fargo.
You know that as being Jessica's congressman.
All right. We got to move on. Republican lawmakers at odds over whether to focus on repealing and replacing Obamacare in 2018 or move on to other agenda items. Does the GOP tax bill deliver enough of a blow already? It's not a bill anymore. It's a law. We'll talk about it. Stay close.
What does the future of the internet hold? Is it access to high-speed bandwidth for rural America? Or immediate reliable communications after a disaster? Is it video conferencing from the middle of the ocean or from the top of a mountain? At Airborne Wireless Network, our technology is leading the way to make that a reality. What does the future hold? Maybe it's connectivity for all.
If you've been turned down for a mortgage because of credit or tax return issues, Cash Call Mortgage now has credit and income-solving mortgages with no closing costs. Just call 855-890 and we'll work with you to find a solution to your mortgage issues.
It's time to get smart about home security. Introducing Floodlight Cam by Ring, a motion-activated security light with an HD camera.
Don't even think about it.
With Floodlight Cam, you can stop crime before it happens. Protecting your home has never been easier.
Any object, any surface. If you've got a life, you've got a Swiffer.
If you love your friends and family, give them a meal that will truly be appreciated. The Omaha Steaks Savings Celebration Package. Sold separately, this package is filled with $193 worth of great food for the combo price of just $49.99. That's 74% off on this limited time offer. The Omaha Steaks Savings Celebration Package includes 4 tender top sirloin steaks, 4 extra thick boneless pork chops, 4 oven-roasted chicken breasts, 4 classic juicy Omaha Steaks burgers, and 4 gourmet jumbo franks. Dessert is 4 caramel apple tartlets. Your order will be delivered straight to your home or the destination of your choice to enjoy with friends and family. As a special thanks from us to you, if you order right now, we'll include 4 additional Omaha Steaks burgers free. That's 8 total. You get it all, the Omaha Steaks Savings Celebration Package, a $193 value for just $49.99. Enjoy the lowest pricing of the season with the Savings Celebration Package from Omaha Steaks today.
When you have type 2 diabetes, you manage your A1C, but you also have a higher risk of heart attack or stroke. Non-insulin Victoza lowers A1C and now reduces cardiovascular risk.
Victoza lowers my A1C and blood sugar better than the leading branded pill.
And for people with type 2 diabetes treating cardiovascular disease, Victoza is now approved to lower the risk of major cardiovascular events such as heart attack, stroke, or death.
And while it isn't for weight loss, Victoza may help you lose some weight.
Victoza is not for people with type 1 diabetes or diabetic ketoacidosis. Do not take Victoza if you have a personal or family history of medullary thyroid cancer, multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2, or if you are allergic to Victoza or any of its ingredients. Stop taking Victoza and get medical help right away if you get symptoms of a serious allergic reaction such as rash, swelling, difficulty breathing or swallowing. Serious side effects may happen, including pancreatitis. So stop taking Victoza and call your doctor right away if you have severe pain in your stomach area. Tell your doctor your medical history. Gallbladder problems have happened in some people. Tell your doctor right away if you get symptoms. Taking Victoza with the sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar. Common side effects are nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, decreased appetite, indigestion, and constipation. Side effects can lead to dehydration, which may cause kidney problems.
Ask your doctor about Victoza.
We have, of course, the individual mandate, which is a very unfair and very unpopular provision, as you know, in Obamacare. Essentially, I think it ultimately leads to the end of Obamacare. It's essentially, I think Obamacare is over because of that, and we're going to come up with something that's really going to be very good.
Welcome back. That was President Trump touting the newly minted GOP tax law, which also delivers a major blow to Obamacare by repealing the individual mandate that requires people to buy health insurance. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says that Congress may now turn its attention to other agenda items. Listen.
Well, we obviously were unable to completely repeal and replace with a 52-48 Senate. We'll have to take a look at what that looks like with a 51-49 Senate, but I think we'll probably move on to other issues.
But the majority leader's comments are drawing a sharp rebuke from Senate Republicans like Lindsey Graham, who tweeted to those who believe, including Senate Republican leadership, that in 2018 there will not be another effort to repeal and replace Obamacare. Well, you are sadly mistaken. So, Guy, where is Obamacare right now as a law? The individual mandate, obviously repealing it is a huge blow to the law. President Trump also said, we're no longer going to subsidize or no longer pay for the subsidies, rather, if I could talk. So what's the state? Right. So what's the state of the law right now?
Well, it's been a failing law since its implementation, breaking every promise that it was sold on. I think if you look at legislatively, one of the good things about the Supreme Court's decision that ruled that the individual mandate was a tax was that you could get rid of it as a tax. And that's what we've seen with this tax reform law. So that's gone. That's gutted and out. My suspicion is what you just heard from Mitch McConnell in that NPR interview makes sense. They could not get on the same page, Senate Republicans, to even do, remember, a skinny repeal with 52 votes. They're down to 51 votes, and who knows what 2018 is going to bring. There are going to be a lot of agenda items on the table to try to get to. I'm an Obamacare opponent. I think it's doubled premiums on the individual market.
So do you think they should move on, or should they address it?
I would like to see the law replaced. I think they're going to take another go at it. At least some members are.
But there's a good option.
Where do you get?
What's the good option?
Murray Alexander. I mean, you have a bipartisan bill it's not completely finished. There's going to have to deal with now that there's no individual mandate anymore and continue to work it through. But when you have the opportunity for a bipartisan success with this, which certainly would help both parties going into 2018 and Americans who have higher premiums, who didn't get to keep their doctor, I think that's really smart. And to just say we're going to go for repeal and replace, Obamacare is at plus 21 in popularity right now. A lot of that is scared. People are scared that they're going to lose their health insurance.
But Republicans are in a pickle right now in terms of Obamacare because they get rid of the individual mandate, which potentially could send premiums skyrocketing because you have fewer young people, healthy people on it. And so you have a cost spiral upward that is even worse than what we've seen.
Continuing what was happening.
Let me just finish this. There was a report out from the American Academy of Actuaries saying that the Murray Alexander bill would not be enough to offset the cost effects of repealing the individual mandate. That's problem one. And the healthcare signups, although on the overall, the national healthcare.gov, the number of enrollments was down 4%. That wasn't as much as expected.
No.
So there's still 8.8 million signups on the national one.
And with the government not advertising at all.
And in states, California, Washington, New York, and Minnesota, signups were up compared to a year ago. So there are all these people on it.
Two things are happening.
You could have costs going up.
Simultaneously, we have an aging population.
Right.
So when you wipe away a mandate, it causes other problems that you might not have even considered collaterally were going to come down the pike in a very short period of time.
Right.
Because that aging population is going to reach above 50% of those over the age of 65 in just a few years. We have to start to pay attention to that. But the other issue is when you take the oxygen out of something, you have to replace it. And so we learned yesterday that they were having, just as they did with the tax bill, behind closed doors meetings, and some of those pre-tax legislation meetings were off-site. There is some talk about this. So maybe in the public, there isn't a repeal and replace, but behind the scenes, we know reporting is good on this, that they are talking about this. Republicans will own this. They've got to come up with a way to
and we will continue to have behind-the-scenes conversations about this because we have to move on. Because U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, she provided the White House, or she's proving that the White House is paying attention to who voted against the U.S. on the UN Jerusalem resolution, how the administration is responding, and whether there could be further repercussions. You're going to want to stay tuned.
The United States will remember this day. We will remember it when we are called upon to once again make the world's largest contribution, and we will remember it when so many countries come calling on us, as they so often do, to pay even more.
Did you know that silver is considered one of the world's most useful commodities, second only to oil? You could invest in an oil field, or you can buy silver, the world's miracle metal. With endless uses in green energy, electronics, and medicine, discover why the experts say silver is the new oil.
Investing in silver is the perfect way to protect your wealth.
Silver is actually my favorite investment, particularly at this price.
I love silver.
Call Lear Capital at 1-800-885-6000 to get this special report, Vanishing Silver, and free Experts DVD. Discover why Rich Dad Poor Dad's best-selling author Robert Kiyosaki loves silver, and why these experts see silver as a win-win investment. The first 50 callers also get our Precious Metals IRA Transfer Guide and up to $600 in free gold or silver. This offer ends soon. Call 1-800-885-6000. 1-800-885-6000. That's 1-800-885-6000. Call now.
At Planners, we know how to throw a remarkable holiday party. Just serve classy snacks and be a gracious host, no matter who shows up.
Do you like nuts? At Joseph A. Bank's lowest prices of the year event, save up to 75% store-wide. Fine suits for $179, sport coats $99, dress shirts and sweaters $29. Plus, take an extra 60% off all clearance items. The lowest prices of the year event, only at Joseph A. Bank.
We go inside Eisenhower's final days in office and the final mission of an American giant. Watch as Brett Baer anchors 3 days in January, Christmas Eve.
Are you prepared?
I'm prepared. I'm always prepared. I was born prepared.
Part of being prepared in life is planning for your family after you're gone.
I don't want my son to have any kind of worries when I'm gone.
My mom didn't have life insurance and the cost all fell on me. And that's expensive. We're still paying for that.
Yeah, we're still paying for that.
Guaranteed acceptance whole life insurance through TrueStage can help free your family from immediate financial stress when you are gone. Even if you have health concerns or a limited budget, guaranteed acceptance life insurance policies can work for you. In fact, TrueStage policies are already protecting over 17 million Americans.
I don't want them to have to use credit cards like I did for my mother.
With coverage amounts up to $25,000, TrueStage can help free your family from things like funeral costs, medical bills, and credit card debt.
Utility bills, mortgages, car payments. Those are a lot of things that can add up pretty fast.
Well, life insurance is important because you never know what might come up, and you need to be prepared for that.
And with no medical tests or health questions, you cannot be turned down for any reason. Call now for a free no-obligation quote. Any amount of coverage can help, and you are guaranteed to be accepted. It only takes one phone call, and you can get coverage today starting at $9.40 a month. Plus, your rates will never increase, and your coverage will never decrease. Call 1-800-813-6324 now for a free no-obligation quote. It's affordable coverage that can be easy to get in a single phone call. And your policy can begin immediately with rates starting at $9.40 a month.
When I leave, everything will be taken care of for them.
Call now to help protect your family from financial debt after you're gone with guaranteed acceptance whole life insurance through TrueStage. Call 1-800-813-6324 now.
The United States is by far the single largest contributor to the United Nations and its agencies. We have an obligation to demand more for our investment. America will put our embassy in Jerusalem. That is what the American people want us to do. And it is the right thing to do. No vote in the United Nations will make any difference on that. But this vote will make a difference on how Americans look at the UN and on how we look at countries who disrespect us in the UN. And this vote will be remembered.
U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley doubling down on her promise to take the names of the UN member states that voted to condemn President Trump's decision to move the U.S. Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. Haley has now invited the 65 countries who did not support the resolution to a January 3rd reception as a thank you for their friendship. The symbolic gesture shows the administration is paying close attention to which member states are backing up the U.S. Got your reaction to this, and will we eventually talk with our dollars?
I think we should. This was the finest hour for Nikki Haley, I think, standing up for the United States, standing up for Israel. And there's a broader context here. Jake Tapper, who's an anchor on another network, had a really interesting commentary the other day where he went through and found the statistics. Between 2012 and 2015, the UN General Assembly voted 97 times to condemn a specific country. Of those 97 times, 83 were Israel. 83, the only democracy, liberal democracy in the Middle East, a tiny country, the only Jewish state in the world. There is something dark behind that pattern. And for the U.S. to simply state empirical reality and enforce actual U.S. policy and make this decision, for the UN to come in and try to make it null and void in this symbolic vote as sort of a slap at us and a slap at Israel, it's another, I think, insult to the U.S., which is constantly antagonized at the United Nations, despite our disproportionate shouldering of the financial burden of that organization. And we should reduce what we pay in, because what are we getting for that investment? The speech was terrific.
Quite
terrific
frankly.
Speech.
Jessica, Marco Rubio tweeted yesterday, given its tendency to be a forum for anti-Semitism and anti-Americanism, reevaluation of U.S. role as single largest donor to UN is long overdue.
There are a lot of people who feel that way, and this is something that Donald Trump ran on, where he said we're getting the short end of the stick in all of these international organizations. He said it about NATO. He said the UN, and we will see if that comes to fruition. I personally think the, oh, we're having a party and you can't come thing is a little immature, but I do understand the point and to drive it home. What's been fascinating to me is to see that there are so many politicians who year after year, resolution after resolution, vote that they want to move the embassy to Jerusalem, and then they flip out now that it's actually happening.
Right.
And that's problematic.
Congress voted 20 years ago to make this move.
Absolutely, and they've been consistently voting for it, and we know that Chuck Schumer was one of the leading advocates of this move. Now, there are arguments on both sides that it will make realities much more dangerous for Israelis if we do make this move. But I am generally a fan of Nikki Haley.
If a peace between the Palestinians and Israel hinges on this, then the foundation of peace isn't there to begin with.
Well, and if it hinges on this, why hasn't it gotten done over all previous presidents, including President Bill Clinton, President Obama, George W. Bush, who all said that they wanted to move the embassy to Jerusalem? And Jessica's right. Only in Washington, D.C., where you can have broad bipartisan support for something, and suddenly it's a problem because it's President Trump as opposed to President Obama. I guarantee if this was President Obama, there would be crickets and zero concern over this.
I think that he probably talked about it with people and they said no.
And secondly, Senator Marco Rubio is not the only senator who's concerned about the entrenched anti-Israel bias at the UN. There was, in fact, 100 senators who signed a letter to the UN secretary back in April expressing concern over that very matter.
Yeah, if you want peace in that region, you need Hamas and the Palestinians to put down arms and recognize the right of Israel to exist. They won't do those things. That's on them. It's not on Israel, and it's not on America.
And stop paying families of Palestinians who kill Israel.
Probably a good start, right?
Who kill Israelis. More outnumbered in just a moment.
Your Majesty.
Prime Minister.
The Los Angeles Times, Rolling Stone, and USA Today all hail Darkest Hour. This is the movie we need right now, and the Critics' Choice nominee for Best Picture of the Year.
We shall never surrender!
Darkest Hour, rated PG-13.
Liberty Mutual saved us almost $800 when we switched our auto and home insurance.
With Liberty, we could afford a real babysitter instead of your brother. Oh, that's my robe.
Is it? You could save $782 when Liberty stands with you. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
What makes this simple salad the best simple salad ever? Heart-healthy California walnut. The best simple pasta ever? California walnuts. The best simple dinner ever? Great tasting, heart-healthy California walnuts. So simple, so good. Get the recipes at walnuts.org.
Excuse me a minute. Hi, Dad. No, don't try to get up.
Hi, I'm Julie, a right-at-home caregiver. And if I'd been caring for Tom's dad, I would have noticed some dizziness that could lead to balance issues. That's because I'm trained to report any changes in behavior, no matter how small. So Tom could have peace of mind.
We'll be right there. We have to go.
Hey, Tom, you should try Right at Home. They're great for us.
The right care, right at home.
Meeting people is my life. I had to be careful how wide I would open my mouth because I was embarrassed to show my teeth. It was time to do something for myself that was going to be permanent.
The Clear Choice one-day approach is making dental implants a reality for people all over the country who suffer from missing or failing teeth.
I felt like I was the most important person on earth to them.
Bill came in, bad teeth, discomfort, pain. We needed to get him into a smile that he felt confident in. We have expertise that he might not find anywhere else, all in one location.
The next day, I had a new smile. Couldn't wait to show some folks. It's amazing what a smile can do for a person.
Discover why this is so much more than another dental procedure. It's a true life changer. With over 30,000 new smiles and counting, we're lifting spirits and confidence all over America. Schedule your free consultation today. We'll even talk about financing options.
I'm eating corn on the cob. I had the best smile I'd ever had in my life.
Call Clear Choice today.
To everyone else, I look like everyone else. But on the inside, I feel chronic, widespread pain. Fibromyalgia may be invisible to others, but my pain is real.
Fibromyalgia is thought to be caused by overactive nerves. Lyrica is believed to calm these nerves.
I'm glad my doctor prescribed Lyrica.
For some, Lyrica delivers effective relief for moderate to even severe fibromyalgia pain and improves function. Lyrica may cause serious allergic reactions, suicidal thoughts, or actions. Tell your doctor right away if you have these, new or worse depression, unusual changes in mood or behavior, swelling, trouble breathing, rash, hives, blisters, muscle.
Hey, thank
you. You get the double, the like, jazz hands.
Merry Christmas, jazz hands.
Yeah, speaking of Christmas, we'll be back here. Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
New Year
everyone.
to everybody. We'll be back here on Christmas Day here on Outnumbered. But right now, it is all about Harris Faulkner.
Sweet jazz hands. Fox News alert, sweeping tax reform, now the law of the land. We saw it happen. He signed. Outnumbered Overtime, I'm Harris Faulkner. The president delivering on a promise of a big, beautiful tax cut for Christmas. President Trump on his way to the winter White House in Florida after signing landmark tax reform into law. And a short while ago at the White House, the president talked about why he was signing the legislation into law now rather than waiting for a formal signing ceremony after the holiday break. Watch.
I was going to wait for but then I watched the news this morning and they were all saying, will he keep his promise? Will he sign it by Christmas? You were one. But will he sign it by Christmas? And I called downstairs. I said, get it ready. We have to sign it now.
Did you see him call out one of the reporters who'd said that? Chief White House correspondent John Roberts joins us now from the North Lawn. Now, that's how you know you can get stuff done. He saw it and fixed it.
Exactly. The president also gave out some pens, by the way. Typically, when he signs these bills, he has a lot of pens that are designated for the people who help get the bill through, the sponsors and co-sponsors of the bill. They were nowhere to be found, so he had a whole pile of cross pens on his desk, and he gave them out to the press pool, which was a nice little Christmas present from the president. You know, we began to talk last hour, Harris, about the president looking ahead to 2018. Now the tax reform is behind him and working with Democrats to get some of this done. Let's put up the big agenda items for you on the screen so you can follow along. The president plans on tackling rebuilding the U.S. infrastructure, immigration reform, and welfare reform. The president is going to need bipartisan support, in the Senate at least, on a couple of those issues. Unlike tax reform, for example, which passed through a reconciliation process, infrastructure needs 60 votes to pass. It's something that Democrats have supported in the past, so that's likely where the president will start in 2018. Listen to what he said at the Oval Office.
Infrastructure is by far the easiest. People want it, Republicans and Democrats. We're going to have tremendous Democrat support on infrastructure, as you know. I could have started with infrastructure. I actually wanted to save the easy one for the one down the road. So we'll be having that done pretty quickly.
So the president is hoping that maybe he can set the table for some bipartisanship by tackling infrastructure. Then he wants to move on to immigration reform. This is going to be a whole different ballgame when it comes to the Democrats, because the president and the Democrats are on completely polar opposite sides of the issue here. Though in the middle here, he could find some middle ground with a fix for the so-called Dreamers, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. The president also wants to tackle welfare reform, as we said, though that can be done through reconciliation. President Clinton did that in 1996. The president, though, thinks that Democrats may change their minds, as you see him putting pen to paper here, signing the tax reform plan here, when they start to see the results of tax reform and how that becomes a real force driving the American economy. Listen to what the president said here.
I think the Democrats will really regret. The Democrats already regret it. You know, they have their typical thing, it's for the rich. They know that's not true. And they've been called out on it by the media, actually. But the Democrats very much regret it. They wanted to be a part of it, just doesn't work out. But I really do believe, and I said on social media today, I really do believe we're going to have a lot of bipartisan work done.
The president saying there that he thinks that Democrats will rue the day that they did not sign on to tax reform. One curious little thing that happened today, Harris. We were told a couple of days ago that the president was going to have a year-end press conference, such as President Obama, President Bush, President Clinton, and others have done before heading on Christmas vacation. They decided today, though, that they weren't going to do that. And I think maybe the decision was made that they had this fabulous victory with tax reform, just let that marinate for a while. The president only had one formal press conference in 2017. But, Mr. President, if you're watching aboard Air Force One as you wing your way down to Mar-a-Lago, we'd like the opportunity to put some more questions to you in 2018. So,
well, look,
see you in the new year.
Not to put too fine a point on it. By the way, did you get a pen?
No, I didn't. I wasn't in the pool. So.
Oh, nobody brought you one back? I'm from the South. We always bring somebody something.
I did get a pin for Christmas, though, from my good friend Michelle Tuzzi, who's the big anchor at KABC in Los Angeles.
Real quickly, though, with that idea about the news conference, you know, we've had so much press availability with this president. I don't know that it's necessarily fair to say that reporters didn't get a bite at the apple today. Yeah, it wasn't that formal thing that every president usually does, not every, but some, on that Friday before Christmas. But they got press availability they thought they weren't going to get today in that room. I mean, he signed. You could ask questions. You saw he took questions. I'm just putting that out there.
Initially, Harris, it was closed. They decided to open it, and I guess the president had a few things to say. But you know what, Harris? As much access as we got to the president in various forms, those big formal news conferences, those are major national public events. Every other president that I have covered, and many before that, have had multiple press conferences during the course of the year. It's something that we in the White House press corps always encourage, because we just think it's part of the national dialogue to be able to ask the president a question in a formal setting like that.
You never know what President Trump will do. Let's see what happens.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
Merry Christmas. Enjoy your friend's pen.
I will, thank you.
Okay.
It's interesting about the pen. It's actually made.
We gotta go.
In part,
I'm sorry. We've got a lawmaker
from an illegal
waiting.
gun. Yeah, all right.
All right. Thanks, John. In addition to signing tax reform into law, the president signed a measure that keeps the government open for another 4 weeks, which means Congress is punting on some of its most disputed issues, but it also means the government isn't going to shut down before Christmas. Some of those issues: immigration, health care, the budget. Joining us now is Republican Congressman Mike Kelly, who sits on the House Ways and Means Committee. Great to see you this morning. Let's talk a little bit about momentum, if we can. How much are you feeling that, and did that aid you in getting that continuing resolution signed?
Listen, you know what, Harris? I'll tell you what. For those people on the Trump train or not on the Trump train, this is high-speed rail right now. And so if you're not on the Trump train, you better get on the train or get off the tracks. You're going to get run over. Look. You know, the House had done its work in the appropriations. We had our 12 bills ready to go. Unfortunately, they didn't get through the Senate. But the big news is for America. You look at today, and I can tell you, walking around the streets of Pittsburgh, people walking more erect, not just whispering Merry Christmas, but saying, hey, Merry Christmas. You can feel it. You can see it. And I'm not just pumping sunshine for the sake of pumping sunshine. I'm telling you, this is a different country. In 11 months, this president has changed the entire complexion of our entire country and our place in the world. We're no longer leading from behind. We're leading from the front, and everybody else is looking to us and say, go, go, go.
Congressman Kelly, that line of pumping sunshine is going to get a hashtag. I can feel it already on social media. Let's talk a little bit, though, about the battle that lies ahead. You know, the president did say that there's an opportunity for Democrats if they want to get together with infrastructure. I'm curious to see if he'll start there. I know that House Speaker Paul Ryan has talked about starting with entitlements, welfare reform. Where do you think that the battle will begin, and where the victories will come?
Well, you know, I think the big victories, and I think the president's absolutely right on this, it is going to come on infrastructure, because there's tremendous agreement that if we're going to make America great again, we got to look at what makes America great. And it is our infrastructure. So whether it's our rails, our roads, our rivers, whatever it is, or our runways, we've got to get back to who we are as a country. We no longer can have a third world look and be a first-class nation. So I look at that. There is great agreement on getting that work done. So I would say, and I agree completely with this president, because there's nobody that understands business better than this guy. And it's always ahead of time and below budget. We can do things that are great for America right now today. Making America great again begins with making our infrastructure great again. So I'd like to see us go forward with that, because there's such great opportunity and great bipartisan support for it. You
know, I feel your energy. I'm wondering if everybody can stay this excited through the holiday season, because when the new year dawns, you've punted with a continuing resolution, the battle over the budget, through January 19th. Outside of infrastructure, it will get difficult, though. Immigration, the Dreamers Act with DACA. You've got some things that are coming down the pike. And before we even get to those, tax reform, do you really think you have to sell it so hard, or can you turn the corner without doing that?
Well, you know what? We have to sell it hard, because too many people are saying about the downside of it. It's so upside down what they're saying, and what they're saying defies what actually is happening in the marketplace in America right now. For instance, where I'm from, in Pennsylvania's 3rd Congressional District, that average family of 4, middle income earners, about $74,000 a year, they're going to get to keep almost $2,000 of their own money instead of sending it off to the federal government. I'd like to see them. They earned it. Let them keep it. Let them spend it the way they want, or save it the way they want. There's just so much good. You know, Harris, This time of the year, and I'm sure you're like me, as a young children, we make out our list to Santa Claus and we tell them everything we want and we send it off to the North Pole. And then we come down Christmas morning and underneath the tree are all these wonderful gifts. Now, I'm sure you're like me. I never got everything I wanted, but boy, was I glad for everything we got. This is truly a December to remember. This is the best thing that's happened to America in a long, long time. I'm so excited. Everybody wins.
I got to step into the president giving a shout out to some of the companies passing on those tax cut savings to their employees. Let's take a look at that.
You have some great companies. I want to thank AT&T, who actually was the first out of the box, and Boeing and Sinclair and Wells Fargo and Comcast, even though they own NBC, which is not so nice to the presidency or the president. But Comcast also, they all have made tremendous contributions to their employees and tremendous contributions to spending money in this country because of the tax bill.
All right, so in that, we'll let the president have the last word, but I want to go back to that fight over DACA and other issues that will be tough in 2018.
Well, listen, there are going to be some tough issues, but you know what? We get elected to do the right things for the right reasons because good things will happen. We've got to solve these problems, and we've got to do them in a way that is truly bipartisan. I'm so tired of looking at a country that's divided and not united. We are not the divided states of America. We are the United States of America.
Do you think you can get some Democrats
to
come on board with the Dreamers Act, and are Republicans willing to meet them halfway?
Do you know what? I think we're all willing to work together. I think you got to be careful that you don't get polarized and you don't go so far down a road that you can't come back because then people say you flip-flopped. Look carefully at what's going on and make sure that you understand the issue before you start popping off. Sometimes you look back and say, boy, I wish I hadn't said it that way. There's a lot more to this than what I realized. We have an obligation and a responsibility, and I feel so privileged that the people of Pennsylvania's 3rd Congressional District sent me to Washington to represent them, that I'm looking forward to the discussion, I'm looking forward to the debate, and I'm looking forward to doing the right thing.
I like what you said, that part about don't go so far down one road that it looks like you flipped. That's probably good advice on a whole host of things in life. Congressman Kelly of the great state of Pennsylvania, Merry Christmas, and thank you for your time.
You know, Harris, Merry Christmas to you and to all our Fox watchers. Appreciate it.
Hey, how about that? Thanks. All right, my next guest says he believes that the president heads into the Christmas holidays and the new year with a lot of momentum, probably channeling a little bit of that congressman's energy there. Hugo Gurdon is the editorial director of the Washington Examiner. You know, so you put this, Hugo, in a category differently than the congressman. You look at it kind of at 37,000 feet politically and say, what about momentum?
The president is heading into the new year and through Christmas with great momentum. The thing that's happened just recently is he's flipped the script. The Republicans have flipped the script. For 11 out of the last 12 months, the narrative has been neither the president nor the Republican Congress, despite controlling Washington, are getting anything done. And then suddenly, they've checked off a really big, perhaps the biggest item on their agenda, which is the tax reforms. But that comes on top of a whole lot of other things. They've crushed ISIS on the battlefield. They've cut red tape. They've repealed the Obamacare individual mandate. There's a lot of things that they've been doing which has changed the narrative about how successful and how much they're getting done.
You know, Hugo, I'm curious. I've heard you say, and I've got it in my notes to ask you about this because you and I have talked about it, that sometimes you know your greatest victories by what your enemies or your opponents in this situation are saying about you. How do you think that applies to this situation?
Well, I mean, just to take one quotation, Minority Leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, said that the tax bill, the tax reforms were going to be an anchor around the necks of the Republicans going into the 2018 elections. Now, when your political opponents harming them.
You know, I took a look at some of this polling and dug deeper because I always like to look at the questions. I think it's fair to say that the American public right now in some of those polls are feeling skittish about the unknown. And it's not necessarily that they are pushing against Republicans or this bill. They are pushing against something that is unknown. And that may seem 197 pages of confusion for them. And as things kind of get worked out, we'll have to see what happens in the new year. The president challenges after February 1st, people will see it in their paychecks, and that will be enough. I do want to talk with you a little bit, though, about where the congressman was. And he said something interesting. He said, don't go so far down a road with regard to immigration and DACA and the Dreamers specifically, as he was speaking, that you seem like you flip-flop. How cautionary is that tale?
I think that it's always a good idea in politics, and most politicians.
But with that particular issue.
Do you mean on the taxes?
Dreamers and DACA?
Oh, well, I think that on that particular issue, it's very important that the Republicans do not get into the position where they seem like they're against all immigration, that they seem unfair to children who arrived here through no fault of their own, who were brought here. It's also very important for the Democrats because, you know, one of the really interesting things that happened in the passage of the spending bill was that the Republicans were able to pass the spending bill to keep the government open without Democratic votes. And part of what the Democrats wanted was some language in there about the dreamer immigration. And I think it's important that for the Democrats not to think that they can hold the government up on dreamer immigration.
Yeah, and that CHIP, that insurance program for children that fills in the gap between Medicaid and their parents being able to get insurance on their jobs, that was something that Democrats said they were worried about, and it got passed in the CR, this continuing resolution, so that gets kicked down the can. They were very worried about that, so they did get something that they wanted as well. Hugo Gurdon, great to see you. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you. The midterms will approach quickly after the first of the year. Hillary Clinton is reportedly mulling what role she may play in 2018. Some Democrats worry she brings too much baggage and could be a detriment to their party. Are they right? And Republicans want answers after a report claims the Obama administration gave a free pass to terrorists Hezbollah's drug trafficking and money laundering operations, all to make sure not to derail the Iran nuclear deal. Should someone be held accountable? Who is it, and what would accountability look like? Stay close.
This program is brought to you by Honda. Great deals are waiting for you now at your local Honda dealer.
Just the right shop for the holiday car. Didn't think it would be so hard.
Road trip home to see the family. Presents for mom and just a little laundry. Holiday Road.
Get on the holiday road in a Honda Fit, now during the Happy Honda Day sales event. Ends January 2nd.
At the end of the day, there's nothing better than a glass of wine, especially that first sip. The taste is so important, and wine just doesn't taste as good a day after it's been opened. What if you didn't actually have to open the bottle at all? With my Coravin, I never need to pull the cork. I simply insert the needle, tip, and pour. The cork reseals to preserve the rest of the bottle for months or even years.
At home, relaxing with a glass of wine or entertaining friends. Just insert, tip, and pour. Buy Coravin at these fine retailers.
Sure, it's his gift, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy it too. Now at Men's Warehouse, take 60% off sweaters and coats, plus 60% off designer suits. You're gonna like the way he looks.
Are cream conditioners bringing your hair down? Switch to new Pantene Light as Air Foam Conditioner, full of rich Pro-V nutrients for 100% conditioning, 0% weight. New Pantene Foam Conditioner.
Are you thinking about buying a stair lift? This essential free guide will answer all your questions. You can find out how a stair lift can improve your life in a few easy steps with this free guide packed full of detailed information. All of your questions answered. What should I think about when buying a stair lift? What type of stair lift will suit my home? What difference can a stair lift make to my life? Answers to these and many more with this free guide to buying a stair lift. A stair lift can be crucial to you staying independent in your own home. They were invented to make your life easier. And this free, practical guide, produced with the help of Acorn Stair Lifts, will make it easier for you to choose the one that's right for you. So call now, 1-800-908-1851 for your free copy of your guide to buying a stair lift and have all of your stair lift questions answered today. 1-800-908-1851.
With unprecedented detail, vivid clarity, rich colors, and lifelike depth. At nearly 4 times the display resolution of HD, a whole new world of live TV awaits. DirecTV is the first to offer the NBA in 4K HDR, the industry's most immersive picture format. Don't just watch the NBA, experience it. Raptors Thunder, live in 4K HDR, only on DirecTV. If you don't already have 4K, ask for it today.
Okay, you're all set, ma'am. Oil's changed, tires rotated.
Rotate them again. Jim, if you can make sure to file these TPS reports before you leave, that'd be great.
No problem, Chief.
Mr. Anders, is Mr. Anders here?
Someone else can go. With TV this good, customers and employees will never want to leave. Redefine business as usual with DirecTV for Business.
Congressional Republicans are calling out the Justice Department, demanding all documents related to alleged efforts by the Obama administration to weaken a task force targeting criminal activities by Hezbollah terrorists. A Political report claims Obama's team thwarted a decade-long DEA investigation, possibly allowing the Iranian-backed terror group to pump drugs into the U.S. in order not to anger Iran and preserve the landmark nuclear deal. Lawmakers say they're looking at evidence which could implicate top former Obama officials, including National Security Council official Ben Rhodes. He was one of the key architects of that Iran nuke deal. Let's bring in Congressman Ron DeSantis, a Republican from Florida, and one of the lawmakers who sent the letter seeking answers. This is unbelievable. Congressman?
Yeah, I mean, look, Harris, Hezbollah is one of the most lethal terrorist groups in the world, and they have American blood on their hands. You go back to 1983, the bombing of the Marine Corps barracks in Beirut, Lebanon. That was done at the hands of Hezbollah. They were active in supporting Shia militia in Iraq, targeting U.S. troops, and of course, they're one of the biggest problems in places like Syria and in terms of the groups that our ally Israel worries about. So to do anything that would give them a free pass in either drug running or money laundering, that is a major, major issue. Now, we've known from the beginning, Ben Rhodes said that the Iran deal was the Obamacare of the second term, and they did make everything subservient to getting that deal, that sheet of paper that they could wave around. And I think a lot of us in the Congress realized that they were going out of their way to bend over backwards to placate Iran. But I don't think any of us thought they went quite this far.
Yeah, you know, so one thing that pops into my mind is this another instance of the Obama administration looking at a terror group and saying they're JV-like? You know, let's underestimate the damage that they can do so that we can kind of compartmentalize. Is that what we're looking at? Because that's some dangerous stuff. We've learned some deadly lessons by calling ISIS JV to begin with.
Well, if you remember, when the administration was in its early years, you had people like John Brennan, who was the counterterrorism guy, later became the CIA director. He was saying, look, we've got to look at Hezbollah, and we got to try to separate the good from the bad within Hezbollah.
What does that mean?
Well, it doesn't mean much to most people who understand terrorism and understand that this is a group that has very nefarious purposes in mind. But nevertheless, that was a view. And so did that naive view play into it? Or was it, hey, at this point we realize Hezbollah is bad, but we're willing to empower them in order to get this deal? And remember, Harris, even after the deal, when you had the $150 billion in sanctions relief, and then you had the U.S. government airlifting in pallets of cash, over $1 billion, Secretary of State John Kerry acknowledged that some of that money was going to go to fund terrorism. And so you may have a situation where in order to do the Iran deal on the front end, by deep-sixing these prosecutions, you were letting money flow to Hezbollah. But then on the back end, by getting all the cash, that ends up going to the Revolutionary Guard Corps and to groups like Hezbollah. So it could be empowering Hezbollah on both sides of this Iran deal.
Congressman, when you look at what Ambassador Nikki Haley put together, you had that poster behind her at the UN, and it showed the warehouses where weapons were being held and then sent on to the Yemeni rebels to fight a war there. And the markings of Iran on that weaponry. It was, and I quote the ambassador, like there was a made in Iran sticker on some of the stuff. I mean, how does that fit into this conversation? Because that had to, in my estimation at least, and correct me if I'm wrong, some of that had to be going on during the last administration. President Trump's only been in office for less than a year.
Oh, without question. I mean, I think what you've seen is this Iran deal was flawed just on its terms because, you're not dealing with their missile program, which would deliver a nuclear weapon, and you don't have access to the military sites, which is where they would most likely build one of these weapons. But then apart from that, as the deal was being negotiated and then after the deal was being negotiated, the Iranian regime increased its belligerent behavior throughout the Middle East. Yes, in places like Yemen. Yes, in Lebanon with supporting Hezbollah and Syria and elsewhere in the Middle East. And that has been a constant. So Ben Rhodes created the echo chamber saying, hey, the Iranians are changing. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. Let's give them these concessions so we can start working together. In fact, they knew that wasn't true. And the proof's been in the pudding because the behavior has gotten worse since the Iran deal.
All right, we always talk about accountability. Before I let you go, I'm wondering about punishment, because accountability is one thing. You can point fingers at people, but this potentially put us in harm's way. Would you say, and what's the punishment?
Well, look, we've got to get all the facts. I mean, I think there's a lot of troubling allegations. We've got to get this. We're going to have to bring in and do a lot of depositions. We're going to have to get a lot of documents. I think the Justice Department is likely to want to help work with us, I think, because it's a new administration. But we got to get those facts and then see where they lead. But I think one fundamental question is, if this stuff was deep-sixed, who at Justice did it, and were they acting on their own volition? My instinct would be no, that it would come from somewhere in the White House. And so obviously you have President Obama, you have people like Ben Rhodes, Valerie Jarrett. We just got to get the answers to those questions.
All right, Congressman DeSantis of the great state of Florida, enjoy the sunshine down there over the holiday. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Wow. Tough topic right before the holiday, right? In an effort now to halt a surge of illegal immigrants coming into the United States from Central America, the DOJ reportedly is considering a proposal to separate parents and children detained at the border. Is that a good idea, or is it too harsh? We'll have a former top DOJ official weigh in after the break. Stay close.
At Planners, we know how to throw a remarkable holiday party. Just serve classy snacks and be a gracious host, no matter who shows up.
Do you like nuts?
So I think I got to get my roof repaired. You know anybody?
Yeah, actually I might.
Yeah, great. Can you do a free background check on them, get me some additional quotes, and book it for 2 weeks from now?
You can't expect your neighbors to do everything Home Advisor can. So to find and book a top-rated home pro for free, just ask Home Advisor.
Good questions lead to good answers. Our advisors can help you find both. Talk to one today and see why we're bullish on the future. Yours.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA. Every MyPillow is made with passion here in my home state of Minnesota to ensure you get the best sleep of your life.
One of the things that I really like about MyPillow is the support. It gives my neck a little hug.
I've never slept better in my life. What's better than a great night's sleep?
Sleep is one of the most important things to your health, and MyPillow is one of the most important things to your sleep.
Call or go online to order MyPillow Premium, and Mike will give you a second pillow absolutely free. Use the promo code on your screen to get 2 MyPillows for the price of 1. Don't delay. Order now.
I tried every pillow from expensive down pillows that just went flat to fiber-filled pillows that rebound every time you move your head. I even tried those memory foam pillows, and the curve did not match my neck, and it probably won't match yours. That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
MyPillow lasts 10 years, is machine washable and dryable, and comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee.
I personally guarantee MyPillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own or your money back.
Call or go online to order MyPillow Premium, and Mike will give you a second pillow absolutely free. Use the promo code on your screen to get 2 MyPillows for the price of 1. Don't delay. Order now.
With our 60-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose.
Sleep well, America! For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Oh, it's there. Psoriasis does that.
It was tough getting out there on stage.
I wanted to be clear. I wanted it to last.
So I kept on fighting.
I found something that worked and keeps on working.
Now, they see me.
See me.
See if Cosentix could make a difference for you. Cosentix is proven to help people with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis find clear skin that can last. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentix. Before starting Cosentix, you should be checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, or if you've received a vaccine or plan to. If you have inflammatory bowel disease, tell your doctor if symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions may occur.
Never give up.
See me.
See me.
Clear skin can last.
Don't hold back. Ask your dermatologist if Cosentix can help you find clear skin that lasts.
The Justice Department is ramping up its efforts to crack down on illegal immigration at border crossings. There's been a recent surge in them. One measure reportedly being considered would separate parents from their children when they are caught entering the country illegally. According to the Washington Post, parents would be sent to adult detention facilities while their children would be taken to shelters. Thad Bingle is a former chief of staff for Customs Border Protection under President George W. Bush. And you join me now from Washington. So the big question is, does this policy, is it temporary? Does it have enough heart? Talk to me.
Well, first of all, the policy is just one of many steps under consideration. And it's important to remember that DHS is only going to use this when they run out of family detention space. They have a number of facilities, 3 major ones, where they can keep families together. It's only if we run out of bed space at those facilities where a policy like this would come into play. And the alternative, unfortunately, is right now when we run out of space, rather than detain anyone, we release them essentially on their own recognizance, give them a notice to appear in court at a future date, and many times they don't appear, of course.
Now that's interesting. That's a nuance that I haven't heard widely reported, that this is a, if you will, stopgap for when you run out of that family detention center space. And you say that right now they're being let go. So what is our retention rate in terms of getting those people to come and keep their court dates? I know you say they don't show up. Do we go after them?
We do. ICE works very hard to find anyone who doesn't show up for their day in immigration court with a notice to appear. But unfortunately, the ability to track and keep track of that number of people once they get into the U.S. is very difficult to then find them. We have a hard enough time even having enough resources to find criminal aliens who are already in our jails. So it's really the best solution, Harris, is that we take strong actions, send strong signals like this, that there's no free pass once you get here. If we do that, we'll discourage many people from making this journey in the first place, especially putting their children at risk with these criminal cartels in Mexico.
Well, I would think that, you know, the word is probably out on sanctuary jurisdictions, right? That's not just a secret that we have here.
Right. The word's out on sanctuary jurisdictions, and the word is out on this fact, too, that if you come here with children, your chances of being released are higher. So we've seen smuggling cartels pair up unaccompanied minors with people who pretend to be relatives and parents just to take advantage of this loophole.
We had this happen a few summers ago where we had all those unattended, unaccompanied children coming across the border. What did we do then that was effective, that maybe can be done again?
Well, unfortunately, we had a very similar issue. We ran out of DHS in the case of unaccompanied minors, as you mentioned in the intro, doesn't end up having custody of them. That they turn them over to the Department of Health and Human Services. But what we encountered there is the same thing we're dealing with now. Once the word gets out that the bed space is full and that you're going to be released once you arrive here, then our options become very limited.
Why is it surging all of a sudden? Because right after President Trump got into office, I mean, we were all reporting that those border crossings were going down and that there was diminishing. I mean, I know our economy is booming. I don't know if that is the magnet that's come back. But talk to me about why you think the surge is happening now.
Well, the jobs magnet has always been there. It's never gone away. In fact, it's grown more prevalent now because, as you mentioned, the economy is doing great. I think initially the tough enforcement mindset of the administration deterred a lot of people from coming, and it still continues to do so. Numbers are dramatically down from the start of this administration compared to the end of the Obama administration. But word gets out that there are still some loopholes we have yet to close. And once word gets out, it does encourage this particular type of group. And what we're talking about specifically here is family units from Central America. If it's Mexico, we can turn those folks around right back into Mexican custody right away without needing to detain them. But with family units from Central America, we still have some loopholes to close in the way that we're able to detain them, and we have some detention capacity issues that we also have to address.
Is any of this dangerous for us? I mean, the way that you talked about cartels now bringing children with them is really frightening for those children particularly, and for those families, but also how does it endanger us here in the U.S.?
Well, it's dangerous on both ends, Harris. For those families who put themselves at the mercy of these criminal smuggling organizations in Mexico to get them here to the U.S., that's a very dangerous journey with a lot of risks. We've heard all sorts of tales of exploitation and rape and extortion and abandonment by these cartels of their supposed customers. The danger to us is that many of these people show up without documents. We really don't know sometimes. We do our best. The agents at the border do a great job of trying to determine who is who. But with no identification documents and without a lot of cooperation in some cases from those countries, we really don't know who's showing up. We've seen MS-13 members blend in with these family units or these unaccompanied minors who show up. So that's a real danger. We don't know who we're dealing with.
We can't vet. And that puts us national security in danger. Former Chief of Staff for Customs and Border Protection under President George W. Bush, Thad Bingle. We appreciate your time and your expertise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harris.
We're now going to do a Fox News alert because the President of the United States has arrived in Florida. Sometimes we call it the White House South, the Southern White House. Well, he is there now. And what we saw from this president today was a signing of two important documents. One, turning that tax bill into law, Tax Cuts and Jobs Act into law. And we have heard so much about how the first of the year, Americans will begin to feel, those working Americans in those brackets will begin to feel that in their paychecks. And of course, the continuing resolution to keep the government open. He was busy before he got on the plane. Now he has arrived. He's headed to Mar-a-Lago. There, his residence in Florida, the president on the ground. Stay close.
Mr. Churchill. Witness the leadership that united a nation and a performance that will be remembered for decades. Top critics hail this as the movie we need right now.
We shall never surrender!
Darkest Hour, rated PG-13.
Hi, I'm Johnny Bench. After a Hall of Fame career, it's no wonder why I use Blue Emu Arthritis Cream. Blue Emu's non-greasy, deep-penetrating formula gets down deep into those joints for big-time pain relief. Blue Emu, it works fast and you won't stink.
This holiday, the real gift isn't what's inside the box. It's what's inside the person who opens it. Give Ancestry DNA, the only DNA test that can trace your origins to over 150 ethnic regions and open up a world of possibilities. Save 20% for the holidays at AncestryDNA.com.
Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? A beautiful sight, walking in a winter wonderland.
Naughty or nice, we don't judge. Everyone can get our best deals of the season on select models during Hyundai holidays. Save up to $3,500 on the 2018 Elantra or get 0% APR and $1,000 cash back. Only at the Hyundai Holiday Sales Event.
Around here, I'm lucky to get through a shift without a disaster.
Heads up.
Ooh. You know what? My bargain detergent couldn't keep up. It was mostly water. So I switched to Tide Pods. They're super concentrated, so I get a better clean. I mean, I give away water for free. I'm not about to pay for it in my detergent.
#1 trusted, #1 awarded. It's gotta be Tide. And for a plant-based clean, try Tide Pure Clean.
Bona makes it easy to care for your hardwood floors, so you can just relax and enjoy. Pets, kids, everyday foot traffic. A busy home requires a more powerful clean. Bona Power Plus delivers with an oxygenated formula and Power Loop technology to remove dirt buildup. Bona, for simply beautiful floors.
Liberty Mutual saved us almost $800 when we switched our auto and home insurance.
With Liberty, we could afford a real babysitter instead of your brother. Oh, that's my robe.
Is it?
When you switch to Liberty Mutual, you could save $782 on auto and home insurance and still get great coverage for you and your family. Call 1-844-252-1806 for a free quote today. You could save $782 when Liberty stands with you. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
If you love your friends and family, give them a meal that will truly be appreciated. The Omaha Steaks Savings Celebration Package. Sold separately, this package is filled with $193 worth of great food for the combo price of just $49.99. That's 74% off on this limited time offer. The Omaha Steaks Savings Celebration Package includes 4 tender top sirloin steaks, 4 extra thick boneless pork chops, 4 oven-roasted chicken breasts, 4 classic juicy Omaha Steaks burgers, and 4 gourmet jumbo franks. Dessert is 4 caramel apple tartlets. Your order will be delivered straight to your home or the destination of your choice to enjoy with friends and family. As a special thanks from us to you, if you order right now, we'll include 4 additional Omaha Steaks burgers free. That's 8 total. You get it all, the Omaha Steaks Savings Celebration Package, a $193 value for just $49.99. Enjoy the lowest pricing of the season with the Savings Celebration Package from Omaha Steaks today.
Let's take a look. The president now, just moments ago, touching down, arriving in West Palm Beach, Florida, hours after signing the tax reform bill into law. And that's not President Trump's only accomplishment, of course, this year. He says he has scored dozens of major achievements in his first year in office, making good on campaign promises to cut taxes, boost energy production, and restore respect to the United States. We're going to watch this picture. Sometimes when the president comes down those stairs, he'll talk a little bit. The White House also tells the Washington Examiner it slashed at least 11 major Obama legacy items. At today's bill signing, the president talked about his success. Watch.
A lot of people say he needed this because he has had no legislative approvals. Well, if you look at VA Accountability Act and so many other bills having to do with the VA, having to do with the military, having to do with many things, we have more legislative victories than any other president, not including this, but this is the capper because this is, again, the biggest tax cut, biggest reform of all time.
We will keep a close eye and a split screen up to see the president of the United States as he comes down and deboards. Meanwhile, political editor of townhall.com, Guy Benson, joins us earlier from Outnumbered, so we know he's bringing fire today. Senior director of research at Bustle, Jessica Tarlov, is here. They were both Fox News contributors. You know, the president, I don't know if you watched, John Roberts off the top was, kind of chiding a little bit, saying the president didn't give us that big end-of-year news conference. It's not the end of the year yet. We don't know what he'll do. He sometimes will speak in places where we don't imagine. Today, he gave press availability. Hope they were ready inside that room as he was signing, because he did take some shouted questions. But there have been some victories that the mainstream media, many of them, have not covered. You mentioned the VA Accountability Act, or you didn't, but the president did. There's a list.
There is, absolutely, and that reminds me of on Wednesday when we were on the couch with Colonel Mike Waltz, who was bringing this up and how important this VA bill has been for veterans like himself, and that definitely speaks to his higher approval rating amongst that community than the general public. Certainly when I read the list, and I do my best actually to read a number of sources, not just liberal rags that make me feel better about my reality. I was surprised at some of these because we don't talk about it, and we talk about cutting regulations. I think it's one new one for every 22 slashed of the Obama era, which is a massive number. So I do see that there is some merit to this list, but the American people, whether it's the media's fault or something else, certainly aren't feeling that way when you look at the approval rating.
Guy?
Well, he said the capper was this bill, and that's correct. It's now the law. It's a huge tax reform for individuals, for corporations, for small businesses, and it includes a number of long-sought conservative policy ends, like repealing the individual mandate tax of Obamacare, like drilling in Anwar. So when you add that to a dozen circuit court judges confirmed in the first year, a Supreme Court justice, a raft of deregulation. There are definitely some elements of the Trump agenda from in the record of year one that a lot of people on the right are going to be very happy with. Why is his approval rating where it is? I think some of that comes from personality and comportment and behavior, but we have to sometimes separate these two things and look at results versus style.
The President of the United States has landed in West Palm Beach, Florida, where he has his southern White House, as we like to sometimes call it, his home Mar-a-Lago there. It looks beautiful enough to maybe get out and do some fun things. He's on a break, but you know a president is always working. And sometimes this particular president will stop and talk for the cameras. So we are watching very carefully as he lands in Mar-a-Lago. There were quite a few people actually on the tarmac. West Palm Beach, we do see the scene every now and then as he goes home. So we're not sure who has gathered there in total to meet with him, but the president, can you hear it? Let's just listen for a second.
People are happy they got tax cuts.
Yeah, you can hear and he's cheering himself. You can hear the cheering there. 2 thumbs up he's giving. And again, you've got a lot of boom mics. He actually was talking in the Oval Office this morning as he was signing, right before he was signing. He was saying, look, I like to give some things away to the boom artists and the microphone and camera people there that are out in the elements covering me. And that's when he was giving away those presidential pins. I'm going to listen here again to see if we can, because you got a lot of microphones there. A lot of cheering. You know, it's interesting. We had on a representative from Florida as this was rolling out. The House had to revote a couple days ago. And we had our correspondent, Peter Ducey, talking with the lawmakers as they were getting on the buses to go over to the White House to celebrate. And one of them from Florida said, look, you know, he represents in his district 42,000 families that will feel the benefits. Best president ever. Do you hear this audio? You can pick some stuff up here. He said those 42,000 families have been communicating to his office, maybe not all of them, but some of them, saying that they will feel the benefits from this tax legislation that he signed into law this morning. Guy?
And that stands in such stark contrast to some of the polling that we've seen. The Wall Street Journal poll showing that only 17% of Americans believe they're going to get a tax cut under the Republican bill, when nonpartisan analyses demonstrated that that number is north of 80%. Only 4.8% of Americans will see a tax increase under the bill, mostly higher income people from blue states who itemize. 80% of Americans get a tax cut under this law. And the perception is exactly the opposite. That's why I think the White House and Republicans have a lot of work to do.
They definitely do, and we do know as well that these cuts, many of them do sunset, and we know that they will go up for some middle-class and lower-class Americans. But I think really where the line in the sand is being drawn here is that while people may see that they get a cut in the first year, the second year, and it'll be, you know, any money is important money. What has happened there is that the cuts are so dramatic for the wealthy that it doesn't feel like anything. Well, corporations and individuals. I mean, people like Donald Trump himself, I mean, we don't have his tax returns, but chances are he's getting a pretty hefty cut here.
Well, that's because rich people pay by far the most taxes. They shoulder most of the burden.
He would close the carried interest loophole. He said that. He said hedge fund managers should not be getting this kind of cut. And Steve Mnuchin forced that through. Gary Cohn was opposed to that, actually.
Well, you know, it's interesting to hear you say this. I have talked with Democrats who said, yeah, you know, we put stuff on the floor as amendments. And I have asked this question: if you believe so hard that you had a better idea, why not fight in the public eye? I mean, I didn't see, you know, people on the corner here in New York where SALT went away, state and local taxes went away. I mean, Democrats had down to 10,000, which for people who itemize that's a fairly low.
That's why all our Republicans voted against it. Because of the cost of housing.
Although, but we're not going to litigate that here. My point is, you know, you had an opportunity for Democrats to have a seat at the table, at least create your own table and start talking about it. Why didn't we see that en masse?
Well, I think that's been a difficulty for Democrats, certainly leading into 2016 as well, where a number of people said they didn't know what Hillary Clinton's economic message was. They didn't know what the takeaway would be. This is a fairer, more equal system. That's quite a vague statement, isn't it? We would all love a fairer, more equal system. Republicans would say that as well. So I take your point, and I think that we need to put out those specific policies. We have them on the minimum wage. We certainly have counter policies to this.
We've seen some companies that are going to be paying higher wages already. I'm not talking about the bonuses, but they're taking a look at minimum wage.
Up to 15.
Right. Okay. So the president has arrived in Florida, and he had a big day already. He signed into law the new tax reform. And as we heard from him talking at his, what we believe will be his last cabinet meeting yesterday, he said, look, let's get out this word. Let's call it this. Let's call it Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. That's the title. Let's drill that home. He also talked about Obamacare. And he said that what they did by wiping away the mandate in this new tax law was to repeal Obamacare. He said that essentially that's what's happened here. Guy?
They have not repealed all of Obamacare, and they haven't replaced what they have repealed with anything necessarily.
They've taken chunks of money away from
Yep, and getting rid of that big
tax.
pillar, I think, I always believed that was unconstitutional. It was upheld as a tax, and now it's gone. I think that's a good thing. There are some ripple effect consequences from that, and we were discussing it on the couch earlier. How does that look going into next year? We didn't get to finish the conversation in the previous hour, so I'm glad we're back. One thing that I suspect is that the Murray-Alexander bipartisan quote-unquote fix, which I don't really view as a solution, but it's something that has bipartisan support.
Right.
Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski were basically on the record as saying we must have a vote on that in order for us to support a tax reform bill that repeals the individual mandate. They both voted yes on the tax bill. My guess is that Mitch McConnell has promised at least a vote on Murray-Alexander.
Although he says that they are not going to, bring everything. They're not going to bring everything to a halt to redo Obamacare. We do know that there have been some meetings on the Hill privately talking about
the health care issue. Also, I think that there have been some assurances, whether they'll stick, I don't know, but I think there's some path moving forward that they're going to hit some of this stuff in January.
And it would make sense why Susan Collins went after what she knew she could get in this round with the medical device tax.
She got a lot.
And she did get a lot, and those were the amendments she put forward. And remember, everyone was criticizing her that she, quote, got duped. But maybe she didn't if she's getting her Murray-Alexander vote.
Yeah, I don't agree with her on some issues, obviously. I think she's a little liberal for my taste, but she's not a dumb woman.
No.
And the idea that someone who stood up to the party in a way that upset me on the Obamacare repeal and replace effort over the summer, she was able to withstand an enormous amount of pressure on that front. The idea that she would just surrender for no reason on taxes because she's suddenly duped or some right-wing Republican, it doesn't wash.
It made news. Everybody who was on that wild card list, there were 6 or 7 Republicans, senators who were on that wild card list, and it made news every time somebody said, I'm changing, or I have moved, or I have advanced my feelings, and I'm going to vote yes on this tax bill. And so whatever Collins, Murkowski, whatever these people negotiated to get in, and some of them got a lot for that effort. Susan Collins is one of them. They have helped hand this president a huge legislative victory. It is not his only, and I do take exception with some of the mainstream media, and we're part of it, but some not in this building who have talked about the fact he doesn't have any. That is not true. The VA Accountability Act, I remember interviewing Representative Scott Taylor of Virginia, and he was saying, we're working on this. We're working with the president. I grew up military. I understand what probably needed to happen and wasn't even getting talked about among Democrats. I didn't understand why they weren't talking about it. And certainly as we learned about some of the atrocities that were happening among some of our VA centers, it was important to get the Veterans Affairs issue looked at. This president took that on very early on the campaign.
Yeah, the VA bill was a big one. I think with deregulation, some of that was done legislatively through the Congressional Review Act as well. So he had notched a couple along the way, certainly, not to downplay those. But I think in terms of magnitude and legacy and impact on the maximum number of people, tax reform by far dwarfs anything else when it comes to legislation. I would argue that the judges are a really big deal on another front.
Yeah, the 12. So let's do what they've done. Let's look into the future at that can that they kicked down the road until January 19th. It's not that far away, by the way.
We'll get back from the new year, and it'll be right there.
Something had to have brought everybody back to the table. Remember that day Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer said, nope, we're going to disrespect and not show up. There was a tweet we take exception to, but then they came back to the table. DACA had to be talked about, we know, because then we got word that it wasn't going to be in the CR, this continuing resolution.
It's going to come up in March.
It'll come up. Well, no, it's got to come up before March.
By March.
Yeah, March 5th is the drop dead on this. Yeah, so what does it look like? Because I kind of know you both well enough to know that you could come up with some kind of compromise. What does it look like?
So in my view, on DACA, the president has said he supports implementing DACA legally through the legislative process rather than imposing it the way President Obama did, which is why he rescinded it. I think what you're going to see is, and right now I believe it's a bipartisan group of 3 Republicans and 3 Dems in the Senate working on this together. You can get these dreamers taken care of in a safe and fair way while also getting some border security in there based on stuff that Democrats have already voted for in the recent past.
And the president has said in the new year, if not before then, he didn't give us a date. He said, I want to go down to the border and take a look at those handful of 6 prototypes that they have for along the border where they would put up a hard fence line. You can't do that everywhere, but then you're going to shore up with more U.S. Border Patrol agents. We know that that's part of the plan.
Certainly everything that was in the Gang of 8. I want to remind everybody, too, if they're just tuning in, what they're watching right here. The President of the United States arriving. Mar-a-Lago is his South Florida home, or his Florida home, West Palm Beach here, and we've been watching him as he has landed. Stay close. Can we stick with this? Oh, good. Okay, you were giving me a huge rap here on the floor, and I thought, well, where are we going? So good.
We stayed very close.
Yeah, we stayed so close we didn't go anywhere. That's a good point. I'm like, where are we going where it has the President of the United States on the screen? Nowhere, only here.
Can I bring back something that you asked earlier about the lack of a year-end press conference, a formal one like we saw so often?
Yeah, that was John Roberts saying that, you know, reporters who sit in the press corps were anticipating that to happen. This president has had so much press availability. Go for it, Guy.
I think that every journalist should always encourage public officials to take as many questions as possible. And I think that there is something to be said for the institution of a year-wrap formal press conference. I understand this president is different. He does things differently. I wonder if part of the strategy behind not doing it in this case, and I wish he had personally, the strategy might have been if he gets into a long, protracted exchange with reporters and they're going to bring up all sorts of things, it could get feisty, he might say something, and then all of the attention currently being paid on this monumental accomplishment, we chased a squirrel based on something Trump said at the press conference rather than actually what
he was on the press this morning, and that certainly was not the case. But it is a different venue when you
totally
and he may still do it. He's had press conferences from Mar-a-Lago before, and he's up on Wednesday and say, "I'd like to do this thing."
We don't know what he'll do. Ever. I think if anything we have learned from this administration is never try to second guess anybody who is in the White House, whose last name is Trump, whose first name is Donald.
If he really wanted to troll the press, which he often does, he would call a surprise formal press conference on like Christmas morning and be like, "Get on planes and come down to Florida, correspondents. Merry Christmas. You're going to come cover me.
I have a present for each of you."
Yes.
So the president now is in Mar-a-Lago, and we know that a president, as I said earlier, West Palm Beach. He hasn't gotten to Mar-a-Lago yet, obviously. But we know that a president is never not working. So anything can happen. It could be a pop-up press conference. It could be just dealing with the day-to-day responsibilities we may see him in. Nevertheless, did you hear the cheering? People there. And Guy, you were saying, well, they like the tax cuts. This is also home for him. There were so many people that were on the tarmac. Earlier, we were kind of watching people arrive. I had questions about, well, is there anybody? Oh, my goodness. Oh, there's the president. Let's just let this breathe.
And he has every right to enjoy himself. It was a turbulent year. We have another turbulent year ahead, I think, in our politics. But this is a celebratory day, I think.
That cheering as he was picking up the baby was a lot of what we have seen as he's landed here. We had no idea how much time he would spend on the tarmac, but when you get home sometimes and you got a big crowd, you're there for them. The President of the United States, as we round out 2017, has done a couple of things in the last days. He's had an ambassador at the UN tell the world that we are with Israel in all sorts of ways. He's told them himself. We recognize Jerusalem as the capital. Tax reform. And a continuing resolution to keep the government open. He's now home in Florida. Keep watching. I'm Harris. Here's Dana.
This is a Fox News alert. President Trump is on the airport tarmac, shaking hands and taking selfies in Florida as he starts his Christmas break. But not before wrapping up his first year in office on a historic note. Hello, everyone. I'm Dana Perino, and this is the Daily Briefing. President Trump signing the tax reform bill earlier today, marking the biggest overhaul of the U.S. tax code in decades and his first major legislative victory. After so much drama in the uphill effort, the president taking note of the accomplishment. Listen.
This is the biggest tax cuts and reform in the history of our country. This is bigger than actually President Reagan's many years ago. I'm very honored by it.
Chief White House correspondent John Roberts is live on the North Lawn. John, are you going to Florida?
Am I going to Florida? No, I'm going home. Sometime later on today. I'm actually going to take advantage and get a couple of weeks off over Christmas.
Oh, you deserve it very much so. So what was it like at the White House this morning? I'm sure the president was certainly cheerful.
Yeah, you know, I mean, let's take a look at those pictures in West Palm Beach again. And I think we can do a little side-by-side of the president continuing to greet folks and then coming down the stairs as well from Air Force One. You know, he was fist pumping as he was coming down the stairs and going over to meet folks there. There's no question that this is a major, major, major victory for him. There you see the fist bump there as he's walking with the Secret Service. And this is what the president promised during the campaign: tax reform. Obamacare went first because they wanted to try to get a little more money for tax reform. That didn't happen. But this was what President Trump really had promised. And the mood here at the White House, particularly the mood of the president as he was signing the bill, was this is a promise made and a promise kept. That signing moved around a lot, too. Dana, we initially thought that it was going to be when Congress came back the second week of January. Then we thought he was going to do it in West Palm Beach next week because the review was going to take some time and then have an event when he came back. But then he decided, you know what? I want to get this done before I leave, so we signed it this morning. The president saying that this is going to supercharge the U.S. economy and help middle-class taxpayers. Listen here.
I consider this very much a bill for the middle class and a bill for jobs. And jobs are produced through companies and corporations, and you see that happening. Corporations are literally going wild over this. I think even beyond my expectations, so far beyond my expectations.
You know, a number of corporations, what the president is talking about there, and I think the number is now up to 7, have announced either bonuses or hikes in wages or even more charitable donations as a result of tax reform kicking in. And the president said, you know, this has just happened in the past 48 hours. Let's wait a few months and see what happens. So that's one of the reasons why the president is getting that big welcome there in Palm Beach. A lot of people congratulating him on the passage of tax reform. But, of course, it's an area of Florida, because I've spent a lot of time down there with the president, where he is very, very popular. So I'm sure that he'll spend at least the next 20 minutes or so signing autographs, hats, and whatever. Dana, a very, very big day for the president, though, and a very Merry Christmas for his administration.
And yet there's no rest for the weary. They're already looking ahead to next year. And I was curious if you know more about what happened at the political meeting that took place at the White House earlier this week.
It was on Wednesday. It was right after the president had that big ceremony at the South Portico announcing the passage of tax reform. He huddled with some of his closest advisors and some folks from the outside. Let's put them up on the screen so you know. Chief of Staff John Kelly, Kellyanne Conway, Hope Hicks, his communications director, Bill Stepien, who is his political director, Corey Lewandowski, who everybody knows is his former campaign manager, and Brad Parscale, who was his digital director during the campaign. We're told that that meeting became quite heated when Corey Lewandowski stepped forward and suggested that the president was not being well served by the political operation here at the White House. The president had met the day before with Reince Priebus, his former chief of staff and the former head of the RNC, who said very much the same thing. I'm also told that Lewandowski was very critical of the Republican National Committee as well, thinking that even though they've raised record amounts of money, that they need to do more. And sources here at the White House also say, you know, that there is a disconnect in the RNC between what's going on here at the White House and what the RNC is doing. It's almost kind of like two separate entities as opposed to the RNC being the political arm of the White House. The communication shops are not in sync enough. And I was also told by an outside source that the RNC is in such bad shape, it needs to be torn down to the foundation and rebuilt all over again. Though nobody's taking aim at Ronna McDaniel. They're just saying it's the rest of the infrastructure that's been in there. It really is kind of rotting from the inside and needs to have a big overhaul. So we'll see what happens in early 2018 on that front.
We certainly will. All right, John Roberts, have a great holiday, much deserved, and we'll see you in the new year.
Appreciate it.
All right, let's bring in Chris Darwalt, our Fox News politics editor. So let's continue to talk about that meeting that happened at the White House where they're talking about politics, because while they wanted to celebrate the big tax reform effort, they really do have to start planning ahead, because all indications right now are that the Democrats are doing very well, at least in the generic ballot. But now at least the president gets to go home on a high note, having just signed tax reform before he left.
Well, there's a fundamental disagreement here. We have sort of what's been described, I think rightly, as a coalition government between sort of the Republican Party and the Trump populists. The two of them put things together before the Republican convention in 2016, went on for the most shocking political upset of my lifetime. And we've watched as they've tried to govern together with hits and misses, right? You had a very rough beginning of the year. It was tough sledding for the Trump White House as they struggled with even basic stuff. But at the same time, how do you keep contact with the energy that propelled Trump into office if you are selling out, quote unquote, selling out in favor of the Republican establishment, even though it is that Republican establishment that delivered the win? The two biggest wins of Trump's year, the Gorsuch nomination to the Supreme Court and this tax cut, are both the work substantially of these establishment figures like Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan. So how do you fuse those two things? And that tension is real inside the administration, and it's real as they think about how to approach the 2018 midterms.
So it might have given them a little heartburn when President Trump has been praising and singling out Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell in particular and thanking them for their help. Does that give maybe more of the populist side of the equation heartburn?
Well, especially after Steve Bannon stunk up the joint in Alabama with the Roy Moore nomination, pushing that against the wishes of the president. So the populists are not in very good odor right now. The people who are the total war populists, always against their own Republican Party. But look at it this way: when we get into January, when we come back, the conflict is set. Does the president? We have Republicans like Rand Paul and others, including Paul Ryan, saying that it's time to cut spending, having just engendered a lot of deficit spending for the years to come. Now it's time to cut spending and look at entitlements, look at welfare, look at those things. And then on the other side, you have the Trump White House say, no, actually, we're going to talk about spending borrowing and spending another $1 trillion, but this time for infrastructure, and it's time to deal with the Democrats. So these divisions and the question about does the administration now want to pivot and reach left, or are they going to consolidate and try to keep this coalition together between the Republican establishment and these folks? The choices made in January and February are going to determine what the midterms look like as it relates to those questions.
From what you know down in Washington, if you had a chance to hear John Roberts just before you, is the criticism that he's hearing about the RNC actually warranted?
No. I mean, I'll put it this way. Parties are done. The political parties, the RNC, the DNC, are defeated. They are not what they once were. And that's the fault of the McCain-Feingold campaign finance reform legislation that was then compounded by the Citizens United decision that let everybody spend anything they wanted all the time. All of those things compile to make meaningless political parties as central institutions. And anybody who is saying, well, the party needs to be torn down and built back, I can only guess who they think ought to be in charge of tearing it down and building it back up. It's probably they themselves.
Right.
So I would say this is a bunch of most likely a bunch of flummery and score settling and positioning so that people can get the sweetest plums from the bottom of the figgy pudding.
Well, and especially if the parties are not what they once were, there's a lot of money to be made in the consulting part of this.
The scrape on this sucker, it's like all of the crumbs from all of the beautiful slices of cake that have been cut, and there are plenty of people around in this town who make fantastic livings just by sweeping those little crummies into a basket.
Well, we appreciate you being on and being a part of the daily briefing, and that you wore a bow tie for this appearance. We really appreciate that.
I figure our last last appearance together of this year, I can nerd out a little bit because you create that safe space for me.
Indeed. All right, Chris Direwalt, Merry Christmas. We'll see you in the new year. Thanks so much. So more than 100 million Americans expected to head out today for their holiday destinations. But winter weather could make things tough in parts of the country on one of the busiest travel days of the year. Several states expecting snow, sleet, or rain as a storm system moves through. Let's get right over to Chief Meteorologist Rick Reitmuth. Rick, I hate the wintry mix. It's the worst.
That's one of my favorite things anybody has ever said in a toss to me.
Is there going to be some wintry mix?
There is going to be a wintry mix, and there's going to be a big ice storm across parts of New England tomorrow. So actually, we've got about 4 really bad travel days across the Northeast. This warm area you see down here across the Southeast, that's all on its way towards the Northeast. So a big warm up is going to happen, and you think, well, that is nice, but it's going to cause some real problems in the way. So we've got one storm right now. It's bringing the snow to the Northeast. The tail end of it down here across parts of the Central Plains is bringing a lot of rain, and on the backside of it, it's a lot colder. So we're seeing some of that wintry mix and some snow across parts of Oklahoma. Be careful on those roads this afternoon. But by the time we move into tonight, overall airports, by the way, not looking that bad, which is great news for us. The roads, though, across the Northeast are going to be a problem. This takes us through tonight into tomorrow, and you get the idea. A lot of people on the eastern half of the country getting a lot of rain, and behind this, we start to see the colder air come in. Here's how this plays across the Northeast. We have snow today. Tomorrow, we start to see freezing rain, and it's going to be pretty extensive. Some spots well over 1/4 inch of freezing rain that's going to down a lot of trees and power lines and is going to fall on top of the snow. So that's going to create an ice layer on top of the snow. Then we see a little bit of rain move in for probably about 5 or 6 hours, and then snow moves back in on the backside of it. It's a very complicated system. You see the snow first, then you see all this pink. That's all icing that's going to happen. And then Sunday into Monday, we have a coastal storm that we're going to watch as well across parts of the Northeast. So overall, I will tell you, Dana, we had an amazing Thanksgiving travel time. Not the case, at least on the eastern half of the country. Today, not good. Tomorrow, not good. Christmas Eve, not that great.
Best guess for who's going to have the best white Christmas?
So that storm, interior sections of New England are going to have probably that storybook Christmas with the snow falling and accumulating. It will be a beauty, but the process of getting there, you better have all of your
hopefully
travel
people will get home safe.
Yeah, and
all right,
shopping
and Merry Christmas to you.
Same
Thank
to
you so
Dana.
much.
You bet.
So new details about Congress paying out claims for misconduct. So how much taxpayer money has been spent on settlements for sexual harassment and other alleged offenses? Plus the UN taking new steps to try to stop North Korea's nuclear ambitions. Watch.
Imagine being a North Korean soldier, so desperate and so ravaged by hunger and disease that you would take 5 bullets from your fellow soldiers in order to escape across the DMZ.
Critics are all in for Molly's Game, and now it's been nominated for 2 Golden Globe Awards, including Best Actress Jessica Chastain and Best Screenplay Aaron Sorkin.
It's just a friendly game with higher stakes.
Molly's Game, rated R.
If you need help with home projects, you need to know about Home Advisor. It's a totally free service that matches you with trusted local home pros. You can read verified reviews and book an appointment. Go to homeadvisor.com.
Home Advisor. I never dreamed that I'd meet somebody like you. No.
My friend Susie cracks me up. But one laugh, and hello, sensitive bladder. Ring a bell? Then you have to try Always Discreet. I didn't think protection this thin could work, but the super absorbent core turns liquid to gel for incredible protection that's surprisingly thin. So it's out of sight and out of mind.
Hey!
Always Discreet for bladder leaks. Also in liners.
It's a small finger, a worm.
Like a dagger?
Tiny sword.
Breadstick.
Matchstick.
A lamppost.
Coin slot. No.
10 seconds. A stick, a walking stick, a Boundary, a Kilimanjaro, a big
Sorry. It's
tandem bicycle.
What? As long as sloths are slow, you can count on Geico saving folks money. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
When you have moderate to severe ulcerative colitis, the unpredictability of a flare may weigh on your mind. Thinking about what to avoid, where to go, and how to work around your UC. That's how I thought it had to be. But then I talked to my doctor about Humira and learned Humira can help get and keep UC under control when certain medications haven't worked well enough.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Raise your expectations and ask your gastroenterologist if Humira may be right for you. With Humira, control is possible.
Fox News Channel on Sirius XM. Your favorite shows on Channel 114. Plus, every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7, Channel 115.
New data out shows just how much money has been spent settling workplace misconduct claims against members of Congress. Over the last 20 years, just under $600,000 has been paid out to settle claims against senators. Of that, none was for sexual harassment. And there was one claim for about $14,000 for sexual discrimination. And then in the House, there have been about $199,000 taxpayer dollars paid to settle sexual harassment claims dating back to 2008. So let's bring in Gianno Caldwell, founder of Caldwell Strategic Consulting, and radio talk show host Richard Fowler. Both are Fox News contributors and familiar with Washington, D.C. So, Gianno, this isn't a tremendous sum, but from all accounts, it seems like it's kind of a big problem.
I mean, it's definitely a very big problem. What's even more problematic is the fact that some employees don't have the ability to file complaints. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine recently alleged that a congressman sexually harassed her, and she wasn't able to file a complaint because she was a Congressional Black Caucus fellow. So that allowed for her to be further disenfranchised and not be able to have protections that employees normally have. So that's something that has to be cleaned up. Further, when we look at the data and we see that some of these very big claims that were paid out, I believe it was one that appears that it was for over $400,000 for racial discrimination, if I was reading that correctly. I mean, we would love to know who that individual was. That sounds like it was a very serious situation. And lastly, there could be scenarios that play out, and I'm not saying that I have the data to support it at this time, but maybe they're, a congressman or whoever who may have a big campaign fund and they decide to settle those allegations with those kind of funds. Like, those need to be combed through as well. We just don't know what the possibilities are because this is a new world that's being revealed to a lot of us.
Richard, do you think that there is room for Republicans and Democrats to work together on this? There's some changes that are coming. They're going to try to get back to it right after the new year. And it seems to me, by all accounts I've seen, is that they realize, wow, we've got a problem here. We need to fix it.
I think there is an opportunity for Democrats and Republicans to work together on this, but I think it's going to require that both parties stop the search for a moral high ground. I think you have Kristen Gillibrand on the left looking for a moral high ground. I think you have members of the right looking for a moral high ground. But let's be real, Dana. There is no moral high ground because on both sides of the aisle, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, there's misogyny, there's racism, there's homophobia. They exist on both sides. So this ideal of this high ground is a mirage. And so we've got to stop looking for the moral high ground and come together and figure out how we actually solve the Me Too campaign. How do we come to a real solution? The real solution is 1, education, 2, transparency, 3, accountability, but most importantly, it's education. And that means it's beyond the naming and shaming. It's how we educate young men and boys. And I think that has to start immediately.
And also for women to know their rights and that they can speak up for themselves. And I know that many members of Congress have talked about that as well. Gianno, one question for you is, we had heard that there were reporters that were looking into possibly, up to 40 members of Congress who had been accused of sexual harassment. That really hasn't come to fruition, but do you expect to hear more of this in the future?
I mean, this is certainly going to be a continued conversation, not just in Congress or in the media or anybody that's really high profile. I was in Amsterdam recently, and I was talking with some executives. I had dinner with some executives, and I said, how are you guys dealing with this sexual harassment? And it was interesting what they said to me. I was actually pretty blown away that they told me that executives in their industries and others said that they were not going to hire women unless they had to, because they didn't understand what the standards truly were. If something happened 10 years ago and maybe they were in a room with a woman alone, they don't know how to act. And I'm like, wow, are you serious? So definitely, to Richard's point, there's a need for training. There's a need for a number of different things for everyone to know what their rights are and what the standards are.
Everybody to know what the rules are. And what a foolhardy thing to say, that they wouldn't want to hire women.
That's what. But
I mean, that's going to hurt their bottom line.
It's important for me to mention what people are saying, because so many people are afraid of
I agree.
what could
Last word to
possibly
Richard,
happen.
and then we'll get out of here.
I think Giano brings up a very, very interesting point that is not being talked about in the media, but that is exactly what happens when a pendulum moves that quickly. Is when it moves that quickly and it's moved by elites, those who are the most vulnerable, right? So women who are doing their best work in places like Nebraska, in places like, you know, Arkansas, they're the ones who are the most vulnerable, who men don't want to hire them because, like, I don't want to get caught up in this Me Too campaign. And I think I'm happy that Giano said it, because that's what's missing in this narrative.
States.
Well,
it's definitely all 50 states.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, Giano and Richard, I wish you both a very Merry Christmas, and I'll see you in the new year. Thanks so much.
Merry Christmas.
Okay. Astonishing new numbers about deaths from drug overdoses as the opiate crisis keeps getting worse. Our next guest says it's worse than the AIDS epidemic, and we'll explain why.
Your Majesty.
Prime Minister.
The Los Angeles Times, Rolling Stone, and USA Today all hail Darkest Hour. This is the movie we need right now, and a Critics' Choice nominee for Best Picture of the Year.
We shall never surrender!
Darkest Hour, rated PG-13.
Get a free mesothelioma book from mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. That's why we offer this free book.
Call toll-free at 1-800-745-BOOK.
Your home network may not be as secure as you think. Even if your Wi-Fi router is password protected, cyber criminals could get into your network through connected devices and steal your personal and financial information. Introducing Norton Core, a secure Wi-Fi router. Core monitors your connected devices and helps quarantine any threats. Norton Core, a secure Wi-Fi router with the speed you want and the security you need. Act now to enjoy free next-day shipping with promo code BUYCORE at buynortoncore.com.
If your moderate to severe ulcerative colitis or Crohn's symptoms are holding you back, and your current treatment hasn't worked well enough, it may be time for a change. Ask your doctor about Entyvio, the only biologic developed and approved just for UC and Crohn's. Entyvio works at the site of inflammation in the GI tract and is clinically proven to help many patients achieve both symptom relief and remission. Infusion and serious allergic reactions can happen during or after treatment. Entyvio may increase risk of infection, which can be serious. PML, a rare, serious, potentially fatal brain infection caused by a virus, may be possible. This condition has not been reported with Entyvio. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, experience frequent infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Liver problems can occur with Entyvio. If your UC or Crohn's treatment isn't working for you, ask your gastroenterologist about Entyvio. Entyvio, relief and remission within reach.
Rooted in racism, trees separate a California golf course and black neighborhood. Now, Larry Elder reacts to the decades-old controversy on Tucker Carlson Tonight.
You do all this research on the perfect car, then smash it into a tree. Your insurance company raises your rates. Maybe you should have done more research on them.
For drivers with accident forgiveness, Liberty Mutual won't raise your rates due to your first accident. Switch and you could save $782 on home and auto insurance. Call 1-844-257-7374 for a free quote today. Liberty stands with you. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Statins lower cholesterol, but could also lower your body's natural CoQ10. Cunol helps restore this heart-healthy nutrient with 3 times better absorption. Cunol has the #1 cardiologist-recommended form of CoQ10. Cunol, the better CoQ10.
Get a free mesothelioma book from mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. That's why we offer this free book.
Call toll-free at 1-800-555-3119.
The nation's deadly opiate epidemic is so bad that it's dragging down our average life expectancy, which has dropped 2 years in a row. Latest statistics from the Federal Centers for Disease Control show more than 63,000 overdose deaths last year, 42,000 of them opiate-related. That tops the number of deaths at the height of the AIDS epidemic. Keith Humphreys is a professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at Stanford University with a focus on addictive behavior and drug policy. I heard you say, Keith, that you don't even think these numbers have peaked yet.
Unfortunately, no, they haven't. We see this huge rise in the raw numbers, but also if you look at the rate of increase, it's still going up. Fentanyl illustrates that the best. It took from the invention of fentanyl till 2 years ago to get to 10,000 deaths. We added 10,000 more deaths in the last 12 months. So this is far from the worst of it.
Based on your expertise, what is it about the addictive properties of the opiates that it changes your brain chemistry and it's difficult to ever get off of it? And then fentanyl, in particular, coming across the border, we know that, and also illegally coming in from other places, not just across the border, but coming into the country. Is there any way that you can see right now that you could change the behavior? I mean, that's what you're an expert in that. And I'm curious if you think that's possible. I know that some of these states and localities want to sue the pharmaceutical companies. I don't know what you get from that.
Yeah, so there's more than one problem here. The first is, how do you stop creating new people who are addicted to opioids? And that requires a change in medicine, which is starting to happen but needs to go faster. We need to stop putting people on these medications when they don't need them. There's no reason for a 14-year-old kid, for example, who had an uncomplicated wisdom tooth extraction to walk out of a dentist's office with 30 Vicodin and a promise for a refill, and yet that still happens. So on the preventive side, we need to stop creating new addicted people. Then with those who are addicted, we need to give them high-quality services, give them treatment that will get them out of this very difficult situation they're in, which is harmful to them, but also is very difficult for their families and for the communities in which they live.
What do you think about the lawsuits that the cities and counties are there's about 5 or 6, I guess, that are starting to go to court to try to, I guess, get more funding and punish or maybe change behavior? But then are there effective treatments that can help people that are addicted?
Yeah, so I think one way to understand the lawsuits, which are coming from all over the country, cities, states, and counties, is frustration with the political process. In other words, I think a lot of people feel their elected legislators haven't protected them, and the last recourse they have is lawsuits against either the manufacturers or against the distributors. And there have been some, exposures of pretty egregious conduct. Where I'm from, West Virginia, for example, there was a distributor shipping millions of pills to a town with 400 people in it. So there is a lot of misconduct there, and I think that will come out in these various court cases.
Do you think we know that the White House is very focused on this? They've talked about the opiate addiction a lot. Do you think there's any specific thing that they could do that would help the situation?
Yeah, the president has laid the table very well. I mean, he's made important announcements. He gave a great speech. He appointed a commission of very smart people who gave him a lot of good advice. But now's the time for action. In other words, the commission gave good advice on expanding treatment, on using law enforcement differently, on taking action against fentanyl. But now it's time for him and the Congress as well to put it into action. They haven't done that yet, and I very much hope they will. People around the country hope that they will, because we're losing 175 people a day, so we really need to go quickly on this.
It's the people, it's what their families go through, and also we see here that the government estimates that the health care costs and poor job performance is costing Americans $78 billion a year. That's according to the CDC. So obviously we all need to do more. Keith Humphreys, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you.
A day after some harsh threats over Jerusalem, Ambassador Nikki Haley back at the United Nations talking sanctions against North Korea. We'll tell you what this crackdown includes. Plus, tens of millions of Americans heading out for what's expected to be a record-breaking travel season. Adam Housley had a bird's-eye view of some travelers. Adam.
Yeah, 107 million Americans. That's a record behind me. It's already started in L.A., although traffic's always bad here. It's only going to get worse. This will be a record holiday season. We'll have all the numbers and even a look around the country coming up.
100 years, heritage and innovation have made Gillette the #1 shave in America. Now get Gillette quality at lower prices every day. Brought to you by 1,200 workers in Boston. We're proud of giving you our best. Gillette, the best a man can get.
If you've been turned down for a mortgage because of credit or tax return issues, Cash Call Mortgage now has credit and income-solving mortgages with no closing costs. Just call 855-890-CASH and we'll work with you to find a solution to your mortgage issues.
Monica, it is absolute chaos out here. Gale force winds, accumulations up to 8 inches. Don't know if you can even hear me.
What's he doing?
Can we get a shot of this cold front right here? Winter has arrived. Woo!
Progress is an unstoppable force. Brace yourself for the Season of Audi sales event. Audi will cover your first month's lease payment on select models during the Season of Audi sales event.
What makes this simple salad the best simple salad ever? Heart-healthy California walnuts. The best simple veggie dish ever? California walnuts. The best simple dinner ever? Great tasting, heart-healthy California walnuts. So simple, so good. Get the recipes at walnuts.org.
This holiday, the real gift isn't what's inside the box. It's what's inside the person who opens it. Give Ancestry DNA, the only DNA test that can trace your origins to over 150 ethnic regions, and open up a world of possibilities. Save 20% for the holidays at AncestryDNA.com.
You're Drew Brees. I'm sorry to bother you, but my car broke down, and I'd really appreciate a ride to the stadium.
Yes! But no, I have to stay here and wait for a package.
I thought anybody who rooted for me would have FedEx Delivery Manager. That way you can sign for your packages remotely and even customize your delivery time. Excuse me, sir. Could you take me to the stadium?
Sure, hop in.
Thank you.
Hope you like jazz fusion.
Sorry.
Customize your deliveries with FedEx Delivery Manager.
Psoriatic arthritis tries to get in my way? Watch me.
I've tried lots of things for my joint pain. Now, watch me.
Think I'd give up showing these guys how it's done? Please.
Real people with active psoriatic arthritis are changing the way they fight it. They're moving forward with Cosentyx. It's a different kind of targeted biologic. It's proven to help people find less joint pain and clearer skin. Don't use if you are allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting Cosentyx, you should be checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms of an infection, or if you have received a vaccine or plan to. If you have inflammatory bowel disease, tell your doctor if symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions may occur.
With less joint pain, watch me.
For less joint pain and clearer skin, ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
This is a Fox News alert. The UN Security Council has unanimously passed a new resolution at this hour that would ban nearly 90% of all oil exports to North Korea. These new sanctions are the latest attempt to push back against the rogue regime's nuclear threats. And David Lee Miller is at the United Nations. So why this resolution today?
Dana, this latest resolution is in direct response to North Korea launching an intercontinental ballistic missile on November 29th. This was a missile that the experts say had the capability to hit anywhere in the continental United States. Now, the resolution today is the 10th since 2006, addressing North Korea, the 4th resolution this year. It effectively will tighten the noose around the regime, restricting oil imports and exports and a host of other products. It also demands the repatriation of North Korean workers who provide Pyongyang with about $500 million a year. This resolution was sponsored by the U.S. The U.S. UN ambassador thanked North Korea's closest ally, China, for supporting the resolution. And Nikki Haley also had some very harsh words for the regime in Pyongyang.
The Kim regime continues to defy the resolutions of this council, the norms of civilized behavior, and the patience of the international community. Their arrogance and hostility to anything productive has set their country on a destructive path.
Nikki Haley concluded her remarks saying, and I quote now, that this was the most modern example of evil in the modern world. Dana?
All right, David, thank you so much. Meanwhile, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas responding after Nikki Haley's vehement defense yesterday of President Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Abbas saying America has lost or distanced itself from the political process, but there are many other important countries in the world supporting us that can play a role in achieving peace in the Middle East. Fox and Friends co-host Brian Kilmeade joining me now. I'm glad that you did. Let me also show you this picture, Brian, of an invitation that Nikki Haley sent out to countries that voted no, abstained, or didn't cast the Jerusalem vote. She's having a friends party.
Right.
Did you get invited?
No, I didn't, because I did not abstain. I wasn't one of the 35 countries that abstained. I was one of the 21 countries that did not cast a vote, one of the 8 countries that voted with us in the last vote at the UN to allow us, believe it or not, for us to move the capital, our embassy, to the capital of Israel. It turns out Israel wants that. It turns out Congress for the last 30 years demanded that. So we actually did that. That's where all the ATMs are. That's where the Knesset is. That's where the Supreme Court is. It seems logical. But I love the stand she took. I love the attitude she had. She has class. Her presentation was strong. It was direct. She adapted the president's voice in doing it with her own style. And she's trying to say, listen, you can do what you want, and I'm not going to necessarily take the money away, and the money is staggering what we give in, but I'm going to tell you right now, you ask for things. You're probably not going to get them the next time you ask for things. I think that America needs to let everybody know we're not looking to be your friend. We're looking to be respected. That was the message when President Trump won. That's the message the world's getting now.
And then they all come together today, and as David Lee Miller says, that they basically vote unanimously to say that North Korea should not be a nuclear power.
And they shouldn't. 15-0, it shows that she still has street cred.
Right.
It shows that everybody who's saying, wow, America blew it. If you don't take the money away, we look like we're making empty promises. It's an empty bag. It doesn't really matter. So when we need it, we realize the world realizes this is an outrageous regime that's pushed us to the edge. I think she's getting a lot of respect. My goodness, I don't remember the last time we talked so much about an ambassador
to the
at
United
the UN.
Nations.
To the UN. It's been forever.
Indeed. Take a look at this. Vice President Pence had a secret trip yesterday. He went to Afghanistan to see the troops. No doubt they were just overjoyed to see him because they're doing a lot of hard work for us. Take a listen to what he said.
Before I left the Oval Office yesterday, I asked the president if he had a message for our troops here in Afghanistan. And he looked at me without hesitation from behind.
Eastern, and again at midnight here on the Fox News channel. You won't want to miss it. So what's expected to be a record-breaking travel season getting into full swing today. More than 100 million Americans reportedly hitting the roads, rails, and skies, heading to their holiday destinations. And that high volume, coupled with a storm system moving across several states, setting up what could be some slow travel. Adam Housley is live in Inglewood, California, next to the country's busiest interstate. Adam, how's it looking this afternoon? Doesn't look bad to me.
You know, this is like the only time you'll ever see the 405 during the day. On any day, move. It's about this time of day. We have about an hour and a half or so, and we're catching it right now. But it's even starting to slow down a bit to the north, which is a little bit abnormal. And give it an hour or two, and this place will be backed up pretty good. 107 million people expected to get in the air, on the road, or on rail to go see people over the holiday season. That's through New Year's. That's a record according to AAA. And when you have that, coupled with the bad weather, as you mentioned, it means there'll be a lot of backups. And AAA says you better make sure you have your patience because a lot of people tend to let it boil over.
If you find yourself on the road encountering another motorist who is a little road rage, there are a couple of things you're not going to want to do. Don't make gestures, don't make eye contact. Keep a good distance between your car and their car, and if you find yourself in need, call 911.
Here's a live look at LAX just down the street from where we are. In fact, the planes fly over is here. Of the 107 million who are traveling, 97 million will be by car, and the majority of the others will be by air. There's already been some backups, we know, at Atlanta as well as LAX and a couple of other locations, Dallas included. You can see the LAX live look, and then we go over to LaGuardia on the East Coast. 22 states are expected to have the storms move through, whether it be rain, flood watches, or snow. You add that with the people that are, obviously obviously already getting on the roadway. It makes it that much worse, Dana. They say the reason why gas prices $2.45 is a national average. That's down a bit since the hurricanes that we had over the summers and into September. And also the economy's good. That's why they say people are going to be heading out to see mom, dad, and everybody else this holiday season.
And also
Dana?
buying last.
Black & Decker's new line of dustbusters for whatever life throws at you. Black & Decker, the #1 brand in hand vacuums.
Do you want clean, stain-free dentures? Try Polident. The 4-in-1 cleaning system kills 99.99% of odor-causing bacteria, cleans where brushing may miss, helps remove stains, and prevents stain buildup. Use Polident daily.
You owned your car for 4 years. You named it Brad. You loved Brad. And then you totaled him. You two had been through everything together. 2 boyfriends, 3 jobs. You're like, nothing can replace Brad. Then Liberty Mutual calls. And you break into your happy dance.
If you sign up for better car replacement, we'll pay for a car that's a model year newer with 15,000 fewer miles than your old one. Liberty stands with you. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
I love you, couch. You give us comfort, and we give you bare feet, back sweat, and Gordo's. Everything. I love you, but sometimes you stink. Soft surfaces trap odors. Febreze Fabric Refresher cleans them away for good. Because the things you love the most can stink. And plug in Febreze to keep your whole room fresh for up to 45 days. Breathe happy with Febreze.
If you love your friends and family, give them a meal that will truly be appreciated. The Omaha Steaks Savings Celebration Package. Sold separately, this package is filled with $193 worth of great food for the combo price of just $49.99. That's 74% off on this limited time offer. The Omaha Steaks Savings Celebration Package includes 4 tender top sirloin steaks, 4 extra thick boneless pork chops, 4 oven-roasted chicken breasts, 4 classic juicy Omaha Steaks burgers, and 4 gourmet jumbo franks. Dessert is 4 caramel apple tartlets. Your order will be delivered straight to your home or the destination of your choice to enjoy with friends and family. As a special thanks from us to you, if you order right now, we'll include 4 additional Omaha Steaks burgers free. That's 8 total. You get it all, the Omaha Steaks Savings Celebration Package, a $193 value for just $49.99. Enjoy the lowest pricing of the season with the Savings Celebration Package from Omaha Steaks today.
This holiday season, families near you need your help. Visit redcross.org now to donate.
I'm Rick Leventhal on the Fox News deck. President Trump in Florida for the holidays, but we're hearing about a big meeting that went down back at the White House. The topic, 2018, and there's word it got heated. We'll talk to Fox News Sunday anchor Chris Wallace coming up when I fill in on Shepard Smith reporting.
Democrats are setting their sights on the House and Senate, hoping to hang the president's tax plan around Republicans next for next year's midterm elections. After the Republican lost special elections in Alabama and Virginia, Republicans are warning President Trump that 2018 could be a bloodbath. But the president predicts voters will come around when they see more money in their paychecks.
Democrats don't like tax cuts. They want to raise your taxes. They don't want to lower your taxes. We're cutting taxes, we're taking care of our military, and we're taking care of people. Republicans in the House and Republicans in the Senate have been incredible.
Ty Matsdorf is a former Democratic campaign executive working on 5 Senate campaigns and the Obama re-election campaign. Ty, thanks for being here. Are you happy that you have something now to run on? Like, the Republicans are going to try to run on tax reform, but so are the Democrats?
Absolutely. I mean,
this couldn't make a clearer contrast for what this upcoming election is going to be about. And you saw the Republicans going out trying to use all their energy to sell this bill, but basically they're trying to jazzercise in quicksand. And this bill is the quicksand that's going to pull them down. Not only does it get at the sort of populist base by giving big tax cuts to corporations, but you also see a lot of people in sort of higher median income suburbs that are going to see their taxes go up. And that's a big problem for the Republicans in 2018.
So there were 12 Republicans in the House who voted against tax reform. I think we've got some pictures of them here. Most of them from those states you mentioned, New York, New Jersey, California, or higher tax states. If those constituents of those Republican members see their taxes go up, you think that they are vulnerable?
Absolutely. I mean, you saw as these districts moved away from Donald Trump, these voters were really uncomfortable with him ideologically. They're uncomfortable with the Republican Party on social issues. And what kept them bound to the Republican Party was the economic issues. And with the Republican Party raising their taxes, you have now cut that bind.
And I guess also if those people decide to move to better tax states, that they would also not have as many people to vote for them. I want to also ask you about your Senate races that you're watching. Tell me about the ones you're most excited about for Democrats.
There's three that I'm going to mention. Arizona and Nevada, those have been talked about a lot. They're going to be an open seat in Arizona, an incredibly unpopular Senator Dean Heller in Nevada. Then my third is Wyoming, and a lot of your viewers are going to say I've hit the eggnog early.
Yeah, because I'm from Wyoming.
I know.
Born there, and I know that you have Western roots. Like, okay, walk me through it. I want to hear it.
Okay, couple points. One, very inexpensive state to run a campaign in. Very few media markets. Two, John Barrasso quickly becoming the face of a Republican leadership that is incredibly unpopular. Three, Steve Bannon is currently trying to work his Alabama magic, orchestrating a primary there. And four, we have a credible candidate in Gary Trauner, who only lost by 1 point in 2006 when he ran against Barbara Loomis, and we're in a very similar environment right now.
But do you think that maybe the shine is, the bloom is off the rose when it comes to Steve Bannon after those losses, and now that President Trump seems to be thinking that the more establishment Republicans like a Barrasso or a McConnell and a Ryan are more in favor?
You know, sort of the proof will be in the pudding, but he still has donors that are supporting him. He's obviously just pitched a huge profile of himself in a major magazine yesterday. And I think that the 5 stories we read about the Trump White House sort of in meltdown over the midterms is a clear indicator that this hasn't been solved yet.
I know that one of the things that the Democrats are looking at is just this huge boost of enthusiasm and turnout in Alabama and Virginia. But if the economics turns out to be in President Trump's favor and then works out for the Republicans, will that diminish the Democratic turnout advantage?
I don't think it'll diminish our advantage, because you have a base of Democrats who are obviously upset about the giveaway in the tax bill, but they're upset about the continued assault on health care. They see a Supreme Court seat in Neil Gorsuch that was stolen. So I think that the Democratic energy is going to remain.
All right. Ty Matzdorf, I appreciate you being here. Have a Merry Christmas.
You have a wonderful holiday, Dana.
All right. Fox News Alert, we have a live look at Lambeau Field in Wisconsin, where there is a heavy police and fire department presence and bomb squads. We'll tell you what we know about this next. Stay tuned.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
$50 gift card for them, $10 bonus card for you. Only at Applebee's. Now that's eating good in the neighborhood.
I do quite a bit of holiday shopping, and I use Ebates for all of it.
I earn cash back just by doing the shopping I was going to do anyway.
I use that cash back to buy more gifts, or actually a gift for myself.
Join today and get a $10 bonus at Ebates.com.
Good questions lead to good answers. Our advisors can help you find both. Talk to one today and see why we're bullish on the future. Yours.
A crucial conservative voice. We look at the extraordinary journey of one of America's most influential figures, Charles Krauthammer. A Life That Matters, anchored by Brett Baer.
If you're only hungry for a slice of apple pie, why buy the whole pie? And you certainly wouldn't want to pay for an all-you-can-eat buffet. So if you don't use your cell phone that much, why get charged for a plan that's too big, or even an unlimited plan? Luckily, there's still a wireless company that shares your values. Welcome to Consumer Cellular. Our average customer pays about $25 a month for everything they need. Many pay even less, as plans start at just $15 a month. You'll get a straightforward bill that's easy to understand with no surprises and all the attention you deserve from our friendly customer service team. No wonder Consumer Cellular has received the J.D. Power Award for highest customer service 3 times in a row. Plus, if you're an AARP member, you'll receive special discounts. It's easy to switch. You can even keep your phone and your number. Now, for a limited time, get a $20 credit on any new line of service. Call 1-800-379-5785. Go online or visit a Target store today.
Get a free mesothelioma book from mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. That's why we offer this free book.
Call toll-free at 1-800-555-8605.
Families may trust nursing homes to care for their loved ones, but it's important to know the warning signs of abuse and neglect. If you suspect a loved one is suffering,
call 1-800-299-6114. 1-800-299-6114. I'm a non-attorney spokesperson.
I bet you've never seen a bed like this. It's the new Craftmatic Legacy Rising Pillow Rest Adjustable Bed, featuring bedside power plugs, under-bed nightlights, and more for less, up to 50% less than Tempur-Pedic, Sleep Number, and other adjustables. Call now. You gotta see how little they cost.
Do you have an idea for an invention or new product? Do you think companies would be interested in your idea? Do you want to try to get a patent? Call InventHelp now for free information.
Call 1-800-742-1037.
Police responding to an incident at Lambeau Field, home of the Green Bay Packers. Police have cordoned off a large area in the parking lot outside the stadium. There's a car on top of something in the parking lot. A bomb squad truck has just arrived on the scene. Fans had been at the stadium earlier today at the invitation of the team to shovel snow from the seating area after a storm dropped a large amount on the stadium. Officials on the scene have just said the incident is over and the scene is clear. So we'll keep an eye on that. A California man could be behind bars in Bali for a long time. He's accused of possessing marijuana on the South Pacific island. It's a very serious crime there. Now President Trump may be getting involved. William Lajeunesse is following this story from our Los Angeles bureau. William.
Well, Dana, you know, most Americans don't smoke pot, but they probably have a friend or a family member who does, and some for medical reasons, but unlike other prescriptions, don't take it to Bali.
I have medical report from my doctors here and in America of why I use ganja.
32-year-old Christian Beasley is among the latest Americans in deep trouble abroad. His offense, possessing a baggie of marijuana.
I have a license to use ganja for medical reasons, but they want to give me 4 years or more.
Medical marijuana is legal in 29 states, recreational pot in 8 states, but not Indonesia, a predominantly Muslim country where marijuana is a Class 1 drug, no different than heroin.
Why does he have the hood on? Is it because he's been beat up? We don't know.
Hank Giesecke is Christian's father.
He's been kind of in and out of therapy most of his life. Sadly, when he was 4, he was kidnapped, and he was gone for a year and a half.
After 5 months in Bali's notorious Kerbokan prison, the California native escaped after being threatened by a prison gang.
The reason behind his escape was he felt pressured in prison and threats from other convicts.
Beasley faces 4 years to life for possession alone, or death as a trafficker, since police caught him with 5.7 grams. 0.7 too much.
Your heart just breaks for you know, your son is there. Your son is there. My concern is, would they just take him out and shoot him?
So senior officials tell us that President Trump saw this story last night on Special Report and has asked for more information on the charges and conditions of Beasley's captivity.
Yeah, that might be one where you make a call and help him out. All right, William Lajeunesse, thank you so much and have a good Christmas. So good news coming at you next.
At Planners, we know how to throw a remarkable holiday party. Just serve classy snacks. Be a gracious host, no matter who shows up.
Do you like nuts?
I have been diagnosed as stage 4 prostate cancer, metastatic, and it spread to my bones. Time is very important when time is running out. I was looking for answers. A friend of mine suggested Cancer Treatment Centers of America. I serve in the General Assembly for the state of Arkansas, and we work together across the aisle to get things done. And that's the way it is at CTCA.
What Fred needed was a management team, not just to have a long-term strategy for quantity of life, but also an active strategy for quality of life.
The plan was to put together an aggressive regimen.
The goal there is to slow the growth of tumor, take away tumor-related symptoms, and prolong life, and lower the PSA.
A raven came from the Citadel. A white raven. Winter is here.
Alexa, what's the weather like this afternoon? Appointments available now. Today,
when you have type 2 diabetes, you manage your A1C, but you also have a higher risk of heart attack or stroke. Non-insulin Victoza lowers A1C. And now, Victoza lowers A1C. And now,
Literally going wild over this.
But Democrats call the bill a scam and one of the worst pieces of legislation in history. They say it favors the rich and big corporations. Democrats also predicting the new tax law will come back to haunt Republicans in the 2018 midterms. The president today also signing a temporary spending bill before heading to his Florida resort for Christmas break. The measure keeps the government from shutting down at midnight tonight. The bill cleared the House and Senate despite opposition from some Democrats. They demanded protection for so-called dreamers, the hundreds of thousands of immigrants whose parents brought them to the U.S. without documents. Republican leaders say they plan to work on that next year. The president says he'd like to tackle infrastructure next. He says it will be easy, and he hopes to work with Democrats. Chief White House correspondent John Roberts live on the North Lawn. John?
Rick, good afternoon to you. The president now in West Palm, well, he was in Palm Beach now. He touched down in West Palm Beach a short time ago. Let's show you some of those pictures. The president giving a big fist pump as he was walking across the tarmac there from Air Force One over to greet some well-wishers. He signed autographs for about 25 minutes. Difficult to overstate the scope of the victory for President Trump. This was the central issue in his campaign. This was the one really that was for all the marbles this year. Had he not gotten this through, Democrats probably would have pounded him for failing to make good on one of his central campaign issues, the central campaign issue. But the president this morning saying a promise made is a promise kept. He got the two big things that he was looking for, not the reduction in the corporate tax rate that he really wanted. He wanted to get it down to 15% from 35%. He got it down to 21%. And the president says lots of tax relief for middle-class Americans. Listen here.
As you know, $3.2 trillion in tax cuts for American families, including the doubling of the standard deduction and the doubling of the child tax credit. The typical family of four earning $75,000, we see an income tax cut of more than $2,000. Many much higher than that, slashing their tax bill in half.
And the announcement today that a couple of more companies are joining the ones that were announced yesterday and giving Christmas bonuses and other perks to some of their employees. Sinclair and PNC now joining Boeing, AT&T, Comcast, Wells Fargo, and First Third Bank. Sinclair PNC saying that approximately 55,000 people will be receiving a $1,000 bonus just in time for Christmas. Rick?
Not bad. Some of the president's advisors holding a meeting about the 2018 midterm elections. What do you know about that, John?
Yeah, and this meeting took place right after the president had that big event on Wednesday with Republican members of Congress in the South Portico to celebrate the passage of tax reform. I mean, the afterglow was not long-lived because all of these people got together, and it was John Kelly, the president's chief of staff, Kellyanne Conway, his senior advisor, communications director Hope Hicks, Bill Stepien, who's the political director, Corey Lewandowski, and Brad Parscale, who was the digital director during the Trump campaign, to talk about the midterm elections in 2018 and just how badly Republicans could get hurt in those elections. When you look at what happened in both Virginia and Alabama this year, we are told that at one point, Corey Lewandowski, the president's former campaign manager, got into a heated debate by saying that the president's political shop here at the White House is not doing enough to back him up and to make plans for the 2018 election. And as well, Lewandowski expressed some dismay that the Republican National Committee was not doing enough. I did some digging around today and found that some folks here at the White House are saying the same sort of thing, that there is a disconnect between the White House communications shop and the RNC communications shop, that when the White House gets into some knife fights, they're not getting enough air cover from the RNC. So I would imagine, Rick, going into 2018, we're going to see some changes in terms of the political operation, if not in personnel, at least in the way it operates, and maybe a better connection between the White House and what should be the White House's political arm, the RNC. Right?
And I'm sure many more meetings on that topic, John. The president today also talking about his 2018 agenda.
And you mentioned it at the top. First on the list is going to be infrastructure reform. Let's put it up on the screen so you can take a look at what the president's going after. Rebuilding infrastructure will be his first order of business. He also wants to reform legal immigration to a greater degree than he has, and he also wants to tackle welfare reform. This is why the president wants to tackle infrastructure first. It's because he believes he might get some bipartisan buy-in. Listen to what the president said a short time ago in the Oval Office.
Infrastructure is by far the easiest. People want it, Republicans and Democrats. We're going to have tremendous Democrat support on infrastructure, as you know. I could have started with infrastructure. I actually wanted to save the easy one for the one down the road. So we'll be having that done pretty quickly.
But when it comes to the other two issues, immigration reform and welfare reform, it could make Obamacare repeal and replacement and tax reform look easy in comparison. The president and Democrats are polar opposites on a lot of issues when it comes to immigration reform, welfare reform as well. Immigration reform, the president needs to get Democrats on board. He needs 60 votes in the Senate to get that through. Welfare reform could be done through reconciliation, which requires a simple majority. That's what Bill Clinton did in 1996. And also, don't forget, Rick, the president wants to do something about the Dreamers, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, and he is at odds with Democrats over how to get that done as well. So he better rest up over Christmas because he's got some tough hauling ahead.
John, you better rest up, too.
I will, I promise. Thank you.
Let's bring in Fox News Sunday anchor Chris Wallace now. Chris, the president nearly euphoric today, talking about the tax bill, calling it tremendous and incredible. He seemed very proud. Is that well-deserved praise that he's giving to the bill?
Well, look, it's a big accomplishment for a president who didn't have many accomplishments in terms of bills being passed through Congress, controversial big bills. And of course, this is after the failure on Obamacare repeal and replace. So, yeah, it is a big deal. It is a historically big tax cut and a dramatic reform of the tax system, especially on the corporate side more than the individual side. The political impact, I think, is still to be determined. You talked at the beginning, Rick, about the fact that there are two very different scenarios that are playing out, or two very different arguments. Republicans are saying this is going to jet fuel the economy. That's going to turn into higher wages and more jobs. Yeah. We'll see. As you point out, Democrats say that this is a bailout for the rich and for big businesses. The interesting thing, though, is that I don't think the narratives are going to matter much, because in the end, people are going to see for themselves between now and early November, when the midterm elections take place, do they feel it in their paycheck each week? Do they feel it in terms of wages that are going higher and more jobs being created or not? So my guess is that this is a real world experience where people will see whether or not it changes their lives for the better, and that'll dramatically affect the long-term views for this tax bill.
Well, and Chris, the Wall Street Journal today reporting that more than 80% of Americans will actually pay less taxes next year.
Yeah, for a lot of people, it's a very small amount. Not to say, obviously, everybody would like more money, but for a lot of folks, it may be $50 or $75 extra a week, which isn't going